Chapter 41. The Silent Night Before the Storm. The next day, Kai woke up only to see Ayaka still reading articles for her new skill. He could even see the bags under her eyes. Even so, her eyes were still very energetic. Even after reading for so long, she was too absorbed that she didn't even realize he had woken up. He shook his head and smiled while looking at this hard-working girl. He checked the clock, and it looked like they still had a few minutes before the meeting. He didn't disturb her until the time they needed to gather for the morning briefing came, a few minutes later. All the students gathered in front of the commander, as well as the teachers. "I'm sure that you didn't have a pleasant sleep yesterday, whether it's because of the hard ground or the lack of sleep since you have things to do. Don't worry, it could only be worse than now. After all, you might get one tent for each group, but whether you can have a good place to set up your tent all depends on you. You might need to sleep on the uneven ground, or you might get lucky and find a cave. You can just lean on the wall and sleep. Anyway, you won't be able to come back here for 3 days. The teachers here will keep watching you to make sure that you do your work properly, and you might even meet some soldiers patrolling around. Anyway, you need to kill every magical beast in sight. I can't assure you only low-rank magical beasts will appear, but if it's a powerful magical beast, you need to retreat immediately and go back to this place to inform us. Good luck." Kai and Ayaka met up with Chitose and Kamina. They followed the other groups that had been moving toward the woods. All of them were carrying a big backpack. Of course, Kai was carrying the biggest one since he was bringing their tent. Luckily, Kai was stronger than normal people, so he could bring all this stuff easily. A few minutes after entering the mountain area, Ayaka went toward Kai. She also understood why Kai didn't bring his noise-canceling headphones. It would be a foolish decision, because it would only restrict his extraordinary hearing. Ayaka looked at him and asked, "Did you find anything?" When she asked that, Chitose and Kamina also turned to look at him in curiosity. They thought a scout would go ahead in this situation and lead them. However, Kai only stayed beside them and walked casually. They couldn't understand, but Ayaka said that Kai would be able to detect all the nearby magical beasts without even needing to go ahead. Kai also understood their confusion, so when Ayaka asked him this, he raised his hand a bit as a magic circle appeared on his hand. Echo location. The magic circle became a green screen and showed them dots with 3 colors. The blue ones signifies humans, which is us. The center blue dots are us, while the ones on the sides are the other groups. The yellow ones are low-ranking magical beasts that can be ignored. They shouldn't have any fighting capability. As for the red ones, they're magical beasts that we'll need to hunt. Well, we can also hunt the yellow ones if you want to. By the way, the range for this skill is 1 kilometer, he explained while pointing at the dots. He classified the low-ranking magical beasts with their rank of vitality. A proper and dangerous magical beast would have a strong vitality that could be heard by his ears. Kai said they could hunt the yellow ones because he knew all magical beasts needed to be killed. He remembered that after they killed all the bats, the teachers wanted to kill the yellow dots too, and Kai could understand that it was because it wouldn't be good to leave any magical beasts alive there. Kai just differentiated them so that they would know which one needed to be prioritized. Of course, it didn't mean they could just nonchalantly rush to the yellow dots and kill them. After all, the bats incident might repeat and cause them trouble. So even after knowing them, they needed to be careful. All 3 girls were shocked by this skill, including Ayaka. They immediately realized how convenient this skill was. However, Chitose realized this took the concept of sonar, and Kai needed to explain it to them once again. After that, they decided to kill the nearest red dots. The first magical beast was a deer. It was like a normal deer, but when they approached it sneakily, they could see that the deer had fierce red eyes. Chitose will stop the deer's movement for a bit. Kamina will restrict it with her plant. After that, both Chitose and I will kill that beast. As for Kai, you'll need to make sure no magical beasts are nearby, and you might need to support us if something goes wrong. Ayaka immediately gave everyone their roles. All of them nodded their heads. Chitose immediately took off her necklace and channeled her magic toward the necklace. The necklace then turned to a long katana. The others also took out their respective weapons. Kamina then said, "I'm sorry, even though I can use a dagger, you can't count me in melee combat. I can barely use this dagger." All of them nodded. Ayaka then commanded, "Go." Hearing that, Chitose immediately jumped forward. The deer was an E-rank magical beast. If it were Shirotsuka Sanaye, that deer would have already died. However, Chitose was still a student. When she arrived in front of the deer immediately tried to charge at her with its horns. Chitose immediately used her sword to clash with that horn, and surprisingly, the horn didn't break. Chitose didn't care about that, as she immediately shouted, "Carmina." "Yes," Carmina replied. She then put her hands on the ground as a magic circle appeared on the ground. "Rise, Dryad Bind." Suddenly, plants rose from the ground and entangled the deer, restricting its movement. Ayaka immediately jumped towards the deer, trying to kill it. Although its movements had been restricted, the deer could still move its head as the deer tried to block Ayaka's thrust with its horn. However, at this time, Chitose swung her sword once again. "No, you won't." She used a strength that even surprised Kai, as he never thought that she would have that much strength in her delicate body. That swing alone knocked the deer's head to the point of almost breaking its neck. Ayaka then immediately went around the deer and stabbed it. The deer then fell to the ground. Motionless, Carmina and Kai walked toward them. Ayaka then said, "I think this basic strategy will work for us. We'll keep engaging the magical beasts with this strategy unless we need another one." Kai also nodded his head, showing his approval. Carmina didn't understand anything about plans or strategies, so she just followed what others said. They then started moving around the area, killing magical beasts one after another. They could kill quite a large number of magical beasts because of Kai's echolocation skill. It was a very useful and practical skill. Their group had killed strong deer, speedy foxes, and even giant squirrels. After a whole day, they finally set up their camp in a small plain. At least they were lucky to find this small, even ground in this mountain area. The girls wanted to take a bath, or at least have a shower. Sadly, they couldn't do it because none of them were water magicians, and there was no water source around. Because of this, they could only give up. Even the food they ate was military ration. They remembered that they could eat the meat of magical beasts since it tasted even better than normal food. But they then realized that no one in their group could cook. They sulked, thinking about how unlucky they were. After settling everything, Carmina and Chitose decided to sleep first. Chitose was indeed sleeping, but if either Kai or Ayaka came inside, they would be able to see that she was chatting with someone, and the recipient's name was Katsuragi Takaki. Kai could hear her typing, but because he respected other people's privacy, he didn't bother them since she might just be chatting with her family. "You're not going to sleep." Kai looked at Ayaka and sat beside her. "I'll wait for a few hours until my shift is over, then I'll sleep," she said drowsily. Kai was leaning on a tree while warming his body with the campfire that Ayaka made with her magic. "I can do it alone, so you don't need to worry about it. You've been tirelessly researching for your new skill," he said with an understanding smile. It's in a good part. If I'm not tired like this, I would even complete it tonight," Ayaka said drowsily. "That's good then," Kai said as he still remembered his uneasy feeling. "With this skill, we'll even be able to blast those magical beasts in our practice class. Ugh, I have a feeling that I'll dream about it if I fall asleep." "Just go to sleep. But I'll have you work hard tomorrow since you would have already gotten a good sleep by then," Kai said. "You!" She shook her head helplessly and unconsciously closed her eyes. In an instant, she fell asleep. How fast she fell asleep even surprised Kai. He looked at Ayaka, who dropped her head to his shoulder and used it as a pillow. Kai only smiled. He just hoped that they would be able to go back as soon as possible, as his instinct was usually correct. After all, he was. Chapter 42. A Mole. The sky above them was dark, and occasionally low rumbles could be heard. Kai and the others were hiding under several trees. Since they were stuck in the mountain area surrounded by trees, the only possible plan for them was to tie up their tent onto trees, so it became a roof. For them, it was dangerous to hide under a tree in a lightning storm, as the lightning might strike the trees. However, they had no shelter or a cave near them, so they had no choice other than tying up their tent onto trees a few meters away from them to become a shelter under the heavy rain. This way, they could make a temporary shelter and make a distance with the trees. They never expected that the storm would come so quickly. They remembered that it was sunny just an hour ago. As soon as the morning came, they picked up their pace once again. There weren't many magical beasts, so they were more tired from running around rather than killing the magical beasts themselves. In fact, they didn't find any powerful magical beasts in the area. The best they could find was a sea-rank bear, and they easily defeated it by ganging up on the bear. Around lunchtime, they settled down for lunch. It was at this time they were surrounded by dark clouds. By the time they finished their lunch, the rain had started pouring down. Because of that, they decided to go back to Kangi Stadium to hide from the rain, or, at the very least, in an abandoned house around. Unfortunately, they were too far from the stadium. As for the abandoned house, they saw some of them before. After all, they had ventured 5 kilometers from the stadium and entered the other mountain range northeast, Kangi Stadium. But because of the constant chasing, they unconsciously became lost inside the mountain. They thought they would be able to find a shelter or abandoned house around the area since they knew about it from the map, so they decided to look for a cave for shelter. But it was easier said than done. When they went to the designated position on the map, all they found was a destroyed house that couldn't even become a shelter. So, ultimately, they decided to go into the woods once again. After all, the deadliest place in a lightning storm would be in the open rather than under the trees. However, it was at this moment that Kai suddenly picked up various sounds coming from the north. What? Kai was so shocked when he picked up these noises. Kai. The others were shocked by his sudden shout. This is not good. What is our position? Kai asked Ayaka. 3 kilometers northeast from the stadium. Ayaka didn't know why Kai suddenly reacted that way, but she instinctively replied. After all, every time Kai reacted that way, it meant something bad. Ayaka, immediately fly to the sky. Check the situation coming from the north. No, bring me to the sky and fly toward the stadium. Kai immediately commanded. He looked at Chitose and commanded, take Carmina and fly together with us. We're retreating to the stadium. Chitose and Carmina were obviously confused by this. Chitose asked, what happened? We don't have enough time. Just shut up and retreat? Kai roared. He immediately ran toward Ayaka. He already got a headache because of the loud sound of the rain together with the lightning. It could be said that because of these two, Kai's detection range shrank from a few kilometers to 1 kilometer. When Ayaka saw him like that, she didn't care anymore. She immediately grabbed him and activated her fire wings. When they were in the sky, Ayaka was shocked by the sight of magical beasts. She saw a few hundred magical beasts flying toward their position. Of course, Ayaka could only see it vaguely. If she had a binocular, she would probably be able to see that there was a human leading those magical beasts toward them. Of course, even if she had one, she wouldn't be able to find a human in front of those enormous flying magical beasts so easily, since her focus would be on the magical beasts. Kai, even though I want to fly away immediately, we're in a lightning storm. We might get struck by lightning, Ayaka said frustratedly. Lower our altitude. Just make sure you don't go above the trees around. It might not be very effective, but at the very least, it will decrease our chance of getting struck by it, Kai said hurriedly. He then saw Chitose finally fly to the sky with Carmina. When they saw those magical beasts, they were too shocked that Kai needed to shout at them once more. We're running away right now. Follow us, Kai instructed them. He then gave the signal to Ayaka to start flying toward Kangie Stadium. As soon as Chitose saw them flying away, she immediately followed them as closely as possible. When they started moving toward Kangie Stadium, the magical beasts also started to change their directions toward them. In other words, these magical beasts were flying toward them. Ayaka didn't have time to think as she needed to fly through these woods. It was different from Kai. He trusted Ayaka and tried to come up with a plan. Ayaka, we need to lower our altitude more. With their flying speed, they'll catch up to us in a minute or so, while we need around 3 minutes of flying to arrive at Kangie Stadium. So let's try to fool them in the woods. Leave it to me. Although it would be harder to hide among all these trees if they lowered their altitude, Ayaka didn't complain, nor was she discontent about it. She also didn't have a single thought about fighting back. With a few hundred enormous flying beasts, it would be a one-sided fight if they tried to fight them in the air. She was wondering why they didn't just run with their feet if he wanted to confuse them in the woods. But when she saw the muddy ground, she realized the reason why Kai suggested to fly lower but needed more energy instead of running with their feet. Running on such a muddy ground, They would easily slip and perhaps injure themselves, so Kai didn't suggest it. She looked at Kai, who was in deep thought. She needed to know the plan for their next move before the magical beasts caught up with them. Unfortunately, Kai didn't say anything. In reality, Kai wasn't thinking about their next move. Instead, the word "why" came to his mind. Even though escaping from those magical beasts was their priority, Kai came to a halt when that particular word came into his head. He remembered that there were at least two groups a few hundred meters from their area, and that group would most likely get attacked first. He found it strange. After all, the magical beasts didn't even spot those other people and came straight at them. So Kai was wondering how and why this entire time. He tried to recall everything they did after they came here, but to his knowledge, none of the things they did could make them become targets for those magical beasts. And the movement from the magical beasts was also very strange. The magical beasts passed by anyone in their way and continued to fly toward them. Before he first noticed the magical beasts, he surely didn't give away his position. Even so, the magical beasts were still chasing them. Suddenly, Kai remembered the incident where he was targeted by a sniper. That thought led to the investigation of the Katsuragi family with his sister. What if the magical beasts are manipulated by someone? What if I'm their target? Is this the Katsuragi family's scheme again? But how do the magical beasts know our position? Those questions emerged inside his mind. Kai was frustrated until he thought, what if there's someone who knows our position and is leading them here? When Kai thought about that, he turned his head to Fujino Chitose and Carmina Elvera. Within this distance, he could hear their heartbeats even within the rain. Chitose's heartbeat was like his and Ayaka's. They were in a panic state, but they were trying hard to calm down. However, when he turned to Carmina, he heard her heart rapidly beat, but it slowly slowed down. It was like she knew about this and wasn't pressured from this. It was at this moment that he knew she was the one. Kai, we need a plan right now, Ayaka shouted as she saw the magical beasts already shorten the distance. They roughly had a half-minute before the beasts caught up with them. Kai gritted his teeth and said, "Stop. Don't fly anymore." "What, are you insane?" Ayaka shouted. Kai put on a serious expression and said in a low voice, "Please believe me. Just 3 seconds is fine." After that, continue to fly again toward the stadium. Ayaka was bewildered by his order. She gritted her teeth and decided to trust him. She suddenly stopped. Meanwhile, because Kai didn't say it out loud, Fujino Chitose was still flying away. She realized it too late, as they had a distance of almost 100 meters. But it was different from Kai. He realized something that made him angry. 1, fasten 2, 3. Ayaka immediately started flying toward them again and caught up with Chitose and Carmina. "Chitose, we need to lower our altitude again, if possible, as close as possible to the ground," Kai shouted. Chitose nodded and lowered her altitude. Ayaka also did the same. He then said to Ayaka, "Ayaka, can you strike the magical beasts with your firebirds? After that, we will go toward 3 o'clock, but make sure we maintain our altitude." "I can," Ayaka nodded. She thought Kai wanted to slow them down. Although it was a bit hard, it should be possible for her. "You need to grab tight, as my balance might be a bit off if I use other magic." Kai nodded. Firebirds. A few firebirds immediately flew from the magic circle toward the magical beasts. Boom, boom, boom. After releasing her attack, she slowly changed her direction according to Kai's instruction. Kai then shouted to Chitose, "We're going to distract them. Both of you go toward the stadium and get teachers to help us." "Wait." Chitose was surprised that they wanted to be the decoy. She wanted to say something, but both Kai and Ayaka already flew away. Her expression became serious, and she would definitely tell the teachers so they could help them. Unbeknownst to her, Carmina, who was in her arms, suddenly smiled evilly. Chapter 43. Trying to explain, Kai and Ayaka were flying in another direction, and according to Kai, they wanted to distract the magical beasts. Kai kept pressuring Ayaka by making her hurry. That way she wouldn't think of why they were being chased by magical beasts. Of course, it wasn't true. They weren't being chased by those magical beasts anymore. Kai only kept pressuring her, so she didn't know they were no longer being chased and that the magical beasts were chasing Chitose and Carmina at the moment. After almost a minute, Ayaka suddenly felt something wrong. They thought that they were being chased, but the magical beasts should have caught up with them. But after flying for a minute, she realized that no magical beasts were near them. Kai, where are the magical beasts? Just keep flying for a few more minutes and I'll explain it to you. After that, we'll move to the stadium and request reinforcement. I don't know if the people in the stadium have noticed it or not, though, Kai said. He wanted to explain it to Ayaka to buy time. If they went toward the base right now, they would encounter those magical beasts again. But where are they? Don't tell me, they are still chasing Chitose and Carmina. Ayaka looked Kai in surprise. She never thought that Kai would sacrifice their comrades. When she thought about that, she immediately stopped flying and dropped Kai to the ground. Kai, why are you? Before Ayaka could ask, Kai already stopped her. Shh, I will explain it later. Just keep flying first for a few minutes. We're still in danger, Kai shouted. Why, I never expected you to be someone willing to sacrifice his comrades just to save his own life. Ayaka shouted as tears started forming in the corner of her eyes. She lost trust in Kai because of this. As I said, we need to get away first. I'll explain my reason to you after this. Kai gritted his teeth. No, you. I trusted you when I thought we were going to distract them. But to think you only sacrificed them to save your own life. I misjudged you. Ayaka also roared. She didn't know why, but knowing about this made her heart wrench in pain. I'll save them even if I need to do it alone. Ch! Kai clicked his tongue. The moment she looked away, trying to fly again, Kai immediately made a magic circle, lullaby. The moment he flicked his finger, Ayaka felt a numb sensation on her brain. Because of that sensation, her fire wings suddenly vanished and she fell to the ground. Ayaka turned back and roared at Kai. But before she could utter another word, Kai already arrived in front of her. He sent a punch to her abdomen. Of course, he just used his strength enough to knock her out. You bastard, I won't forgive. She couldn't utter the last word before she was knocked out. She fell into his embrace. He didn't know why, but this made his heart very uncomfortable. He clicked his tongue as he didn't have time to sort out his feelings. He immediately carried her on his back before running away from that place. He continued running toward the north. Kai couldn't fly, so he just continued to run to create distance between them and those magical beasts. He knew he wouldn't be able to convince Ayaka when she was in that state, so he could only knock her out to make sure she couldn't struggle. After all, in this situation, Ayaka wouldn't believe that they had a mole in their rank, and it was Carmina. Even though Ayaka trusted Kai, she wouldn't be convinced if he said Carmina was a mole. He could tell from her heartbeat. And if he explained all the reasons why he ended up with that conclusion, it would take a long time, and the magical beasts would come toward them. At the same time, he was also unsure whether those numerous magical beasts were chasing them because no one controlled them, or because they were under some kind of illusion. Kai didn't have enough proof to explain it to Ayaka. Of course, he knew that Chitose was innocent, and he felt very bad about it. But compared to Ayaka, she was just a stranger that somehow became their comrade for the time being. He didn't care about how he would be hated because of this. After all, he just made the most logical decision. However, the problem would be how he would explain it to Ayaka. Luckily, he found a cave in the mountain range after running for around 10 minutes. Of course, because he couldn't fly, he didn't move too far, and it already took a toll on his body since the ground was muddy and he needed great concentration to choose the path so he wouldn't slip and drop Ayaka. He was grateful that he could find a natural cave, and he found that it was quite deep inside. After making sure that there were no magical beasts inside the cave, he decided to enter the cave. The cave was dark and quite long. However, he purposely stepped as hard as he could in his every step inside. He made this to send vibrations throughout the ground. With this, he could roughly sense the ground nearby and wouldn't fall, since he was carrying Ayaka. He put down the unconscious Ayaka on the ground. He was tired after doing all that work. The natural action after this would be removing their wet clothes, but Kai didn't do that. What he did first was tie up her hands and feet to make sure that she wouldn't do anything funny the moment she woke up, and he was right. Just after he tied her up, she woke up. She was still fuzzy since she just woke up, but when she remembered everything happened, she involuntarily shouted, "Kai, you bastard! Even Katsuragi Takaki is better than you." It was at this time that she realized she couldn't see a single thing. She didn't know that she was in a cave, Because of this darkness, she thought Kai had kidnapped her, and she was blindfolded. She tried to remove the blindfold, but she realized her hands and feet were tied up. Kai, release me in this instant. You bastard, I will kill you. When Kai heard that, he could only sigh. He knew that this would be a normal reaction for her, so he simply said, just release your fire a little bit, and you'll be able to see. She was startled when she heard Kai's voice. She clearly felt exhaustion from Kai's voice. Even so, she was still consumed by rage, so she didn't care about that. She then used her fire and made a little light inside the dark cave. When the light finally lit in that dark cave, she could see Kai's tired face. You bastard, release me right now, I will kill you. I never thought that you would be this kind of person, Ayaka shouted. Just say whatever you want. You won't even bother to hear my explanation at this point, so it would be useless even if I explain it to you, Kai sighed. You're just a coward that can only sacrifice his comrades. I'm ashamed to think that I thought you were a cool and intelligent guy, Ayaka spat. Have you said enough? Kai looked at her coldly. He then released both of his swords and stabbed them on the ground just right before her eyes. You, what do you want? Don't come. Ayaka started panicking. Kai suddenly removed his upper uniform, and when Ayaka saw that, her face became pale as she roared. You, even Katsuragi Takaki, wouldn't do something like this. Don't come near me. Since you're not going to listen to my explanation, I'm going to shut you up first, Kai said without any expression. Bastard. Ayaka was scared when Kai suddenly sat down on her belly. He looked at her with that cold eyes. She felt chill down to the spine. Kai was already very uncomfortable by doing this. His heart had been wrenched by pain. Just looking at her, looking at him with rage and fear, he felt as though his heart was being stabbed by needles. Even though he had known her for a month, he didn't know why he had this feeling. Although it wasn't the same intense feeling as the one he felt from his sister, it was still pain. In the end, his body started shaking as he punched the ground beside her head. He shouted, just listen to me first. Ayaka noticed that his body was shaking. She didn't know why, but she felt anxiety in those cold eyes. After that, he slowly stood up before making a certain distance from her. He closed his eyes for a bit to calm himself down before opening it again with a serious expression. His coldness had vanished into thin air. He looked at Ayaka, who didn't say a single thing anymore. He finally said, why do you think the magical beasts were chasing us? Before the rain, I activated my echolocation skill, and I'm sure you've seen it. There are at least 2 groups, a few hundred meters away from us, but those magical beasts just ignored them and chased us. Why do you think they chased us like that, even though we hadn't done anything strange? If we're in a calm situation, I'm sure you'll be able to think about that. So I want you to calm yourself first, Kai said slowly. Ayaka's body shook when she heard that. Chapter 44. Reasoning. Ayaka's body shook when she heard that Kai looked at her carefully. After a while, he slowly approached her again, but this time she didn't shout. He slowly removed the rope on her hands and feet. Can I explain it now? Kai asked. Ayaka didn't say anything. Although she was still vigilant against him, she still nodded. Firstly, why do you think the magical beasts were chasing us? Who's their target? Kai asked. Ayaka looked down, weighing something in her mind. She shook her head, telling him she didn't know. Then, do you remember that someone wanted to kill me back in our practice class, specifically 2 weeks ago, where we did our training? Kai changed his question. Ayaka certainly remembered about that incident. Back then, she wanted to help him, but Kai rejected her idea. And the next Monday, Kai didn't come to school for a family trip. She suddenly realized why Kai suddenly brought up this topic, and she muttered, are you their target? I'm not certain, but the probability is high. Kai nodded. He continued, then, even though I am the one who should be chased, why do you think when we changed our direction, the magical beasts kept coming toward Chitose and Carmina? It might be a bit impossible for a person to control those magical beasts, so let's just assume no one is controlling them. They should have been chasing us since we used your firebirds to make a distraction. And with our low altitude, we were still surrounded by woods, making it impossible for them to know our position. But have you noticed their movement? You might not notice it since I pressured you to make you not think about it. I'll tell you this. They didn't flinch at all and kept chasing them. Why do you think they did so? Kai asked her again and again as he explained his reason. Ayaka was tongue-tied in front of those questions. She couldn't answer a single thing. Do you remember when I asked you to stop for 3 seconds? Ayaka nodded. It was one of the most confusing decisions Kai made her do. Within those 3 seconds, we were separated by almost 100 meters. And with that distance, the magical beasts kept shifting their direction toward Chitose and Carmina, not us. And when we caught up with them again, why didn't they ask about that decision of mine? Kai asked. At this point, Ayaka realized why Kai made all these decisions. She couldn't help but speak for the first time after Kai started explaining to her, they're moles. They have something that can give out our position. I also assumed the same thing. That's why I made that decision. And if they're killed, the magical beasts shouldn't come toward us. In fact, to see a few hundred flying magical beasts at this time, you should be able to realize how fishy it is. Kai sighed. Ayaka's body shook. She could only grit her teeth, as she knew she had done him wrong. Guilt started to enter her heart. Of course, Kai purposely didn't say anything about Fujino Chitose. After all, with her heartbeat, he could safely assume that she wasn't related to this, but he was afraid that she would flare up again because of that. So he decided to brand her as a moles together with the real one, Carmina. He knew that he had done something wrong. But he wasn't perfect. Even a good human would sometimes lie if they had to. They called these lies white lies. He knew he had done her wrong. This was also why he felt this guilty. He wouldn't forget the name of Fujino Chitose. If their fates aligned, he would try to help the Fujino family in the future to atone for this. It was different from Ayaka, who didn't know the full truth, her heart wrenched in pain. Even though she said she trusted Kai, in the end, she didn't believe him that much. She couldn't keep her calm and accused him. She kneeled in front of him and lowered her head until it touched the ground. She then said with a hoarse voice, I'm sorry, I've wronged you too much. You can hit me if it can soothe your heart. Please forgive me. Kai was a bit startled when she did this. He could only sigh as he helped her up and told her not to do this, and that it would only make the matter worse. He approached her head and stretched his hand. Ayaka had prepared herself to be hit, but when that hand touched her, it wasn't a painful hit that came. What she felt was the warm hand that slowly patted her head. We were in a situation where everything could go wrong, so you don't need to feel guilty about this, Kai reassured. He also added in his heart, I will be the only one who shoulders the blame for Fujino Chitose. But it's all right. I never blamed you for that. It's normal for you to think that way. Instead, if you actually kept following me despite the strange situation back then, I would actually question what's in that head of yours, Kai said half-jokingly. She didn't know why, but his warm words felt so painful. She unconsciously cried. However, when he wanted to comfort her once more, he suddenly felt something wrong. His instinct was tingling, and when he checked it with his ears, he could hear that someone was coming toward this cave. Kai frowned as he immediately helped her up. He said, Extinguish your fire now. Someone's coming to this cave. She was bewildered by his request, but she immediately followed his instruction. She secretly swore to never doubt Kai again. After a few more seconds, she finally heard footsteps echoing through the cave. Kai immediately covered her mouth to make sure she did not say anything. Ch, those cheese. Young Lord ordered me to kill that bastard, Kai Carter, but he must have known about the tracker Young Lord gave that slut. Those teachers from the Genesis Magical Academy even saw those many magical beasts and started killing the magical beasts I spent so long to gather. Luckily, I killed both of those BTTs. This way, no one should know about it. I thought even that bastard wouldn't know that this was a scheme. Sadly, I couldn't kill him this time. I'll hide in this cave first until the situation calms down, then go back to the young lord. I'll need to atone this failure. The man's rumbling echoed inside the cave and reached Kai's and Ayaka's ears. Ayaka was so shocked when she knew it was true. She never expected that Chitose and Carmina were actually moles, and their target was Kai. She was so angry at this man and herself. If Kai hadn't covered her mouth, she might have already shouted and rushed to fight this bastard. It was a different matter if she could kill him or not, though. Using the darkness, Kai made a sound insulation room. He then said, We're going to get out of this place. Why we can kill him here? Noticing that Kai decided to speak, she asked. Kai shook his head. His instinct was telling him that the man in front of them was strong. At first, he had two plans to kill him, but when his instinct told him that, all of his plans immediately vanished. His first plan was to ambush him with a sound insulation room. That way, he wouldn't hear him approaching. He would then use this darkness to land a surprise attack on him. The second plan was to ambush him with Ayaka's fire wings or other skills. Her fire wings would be able to make them reach the man swiftly and silently. Sadly, her wings would be very visible in this darkness, so it would be impossible to ambush him. As for her fire magic, he didn't know whether her fire magic would be able to kill this man or not. He didn't want to take the risk. Of course, there was an option where they fought him from head-on, like when he and Tasha fought Aikida Kenzo, but he didn't know whether they could beat him or not. After all, Ayaka's strength wasn't the same as Tasha's. If he were with Tasha, he would surely kill this man, even if he needed to fight him head-on, because he was confident they would be able to kill him. Because of those thoughts, he decided not to risk it and flee from the cave. I'll make a sound insulation room and trap him in there. After that, we'll immediately get out of here. Kai explained his plan. We should attack him. That guy wants to kill you. And that young lord of his. I'll kill him if I find out about his identity. Ayaka was mad. She almost hated Kai to the core because of them. Of course, I want to pay him back. Which is why, when we're outside, I want you to blow up the entrance with your scarlet explosion. And with my sound insulation room, he shouldn't be able to hear a single thing. In other words, he'll be trapped without knowing anything. He would have to look for the entrance for a long time unless he could blast this cave away, though that might be a little hard, Kai explained. When she heard that, she nodded her head. Kai then waited for the man to stop at one position before he made a sound insulation room. He made it as big as possible to make sure the man didn't notice it was there. Of course, Kai and Ayaka were outside the sound insulation room. After that, they sneaked out of the cave. He then signaled Ayaka to start as he maintained his sound insulation room. Ayaka nodded. She prepared this skill while pouring all of her frustration and wrath. She roared, "Scarlet Explosion!" Chapter 45. George Scarlet Explosion. Boom. A huge explosion filled the air. But the person inside the cave didn't hear a single sound because of Kai's sound insulation room. And by the time he realized he couldn't find the exit, he would need to know which direction he came from, or he might need to blow the entire cave up. But it might prove to be difficult since the cave was enormous considering how deep he needed to walk to reach the end of the cave. Although he couldn't hear the explosion, it was different for other people who were around them, including the teachers that were killing the magical beasts nearby. They immediately heard that explosion, and Shirotsuka Sanae was forced to move toward its direction. Noticing her, Kai turned his head. Ayaka was confused by the sudden action, so she also tried to see it. She saw Shirotsuka Sanae's figure slowly appear in her eyes. Her wet uniform wrapped her body tightly because of the rain. She looked very sexy, since unlike Ayaka's developing body, she had a fully endowed body. Kai kata, kudo Ayaka. Shirotsuka Sanae frowned the moment she only saw two of them. She remembered there were two dead bodies, which were Fujino Chitose and Carmina Elvera's bodies, their teammates. Why are you here? What about the explosion? Ayaka blew up the cave over there, Kai said while pointing at the cave with its entrance sealed by a pile of rubbles. She frowned as she couldn't understand why they would want to blow up the cave. But there was another important matter that she needed to ask. Your teammates were killed by magical beasts. Ayaka's body shook a bit. As for Kai, he already expected something like that, since the man inside the cave already spoke about it. Shirotsuka Sanae didn't miss Ayaka's reaction. She immediately knew something was going on. So, care to explain? I don't care if this is a personal matter or whatever. I'm your teacher, so I'm the one responsible to protect you in this practice test, so I have the right to know. If you don't want to talk, then I'll have to force you to. Kai immediately explained the situation. They were coming for me, but I don't know who the enemy is. We blew the cave up because there's a man who seems to be the one who brought the magical beasts to this place from the China border. Shirotsuka Sanae wanted to immediately dig into the cave and face that man to get information, but she knew she couldn't. After all, the students should be her priority. We're going back to the stadium first. I expect some explanation from you two after we get there, Sanae said. Follow me, I'll lead you to safety. Kai and Ayaka nodded. Shirotsuka Sanae grabbed Kai's waist and flew toward the stadium. When Ayaka saw this, she didn't know why, but she felt a bit jealous. After calming down her rage, she finally came back to her former self. So when she saw this, there was an uneasy feeling inside her heart. Sadly, she didn't know how to face Kai after this. She was talking to him before because she needed to hear his order to trap the enemy, but she did not have anything now. If she talked to Kai, she would always remember those words she spat at Kai. Because of that, she didn't object to seeing Kai become that close to Shirotsuka Sanae. She just followed them from behind while sighing continuously. After a minute of flying, Shirotsuka Sanae abruptly stopped in midair. Kai and Ayaka didn't know why she stopped. The smell of blood and not from an animal, Shirotsuka Sanae said. She had her own skill alone, and with her wind element, she was more focused on scouting. She usually controlled the flow of the wind to bring smells toward her, or to know if there was an object over there sometimes. But as one would expect from a veteran, she even noticed something like this, even in this rain, even though the rain should have swept away the smell. The moment they landed, they could see a blue-haired woman lying on the ground. Color was still on her face, which showed that she was most likely killed recently. There was only a stab wound right on her heart, which seemed to have killed her instantly. Other than that, they couldn't see anything wrong. Kai absolutely recognized who she was. After all, Kai just warned this girl's partner a few days ago, George. He immediately had a bad feeling about this. At the same time, Ayaka suddenly shouted, "Ah!" Kai looked at her, who was shocked by what she saw. Kai couldn't see it, since his line of sight was blocked by a tree, so he decided to come toward her. Sanae was busy examining the corpse, so she decided to check the body for a bit before moving toward them. She already felt it with the wind that there was another one, so she just warned them, "Don't touch the body." Kai couldn't hear her because he was dumbfounded when he saw that George was dead, leaning on a big stone. One of his arms was missing, and when he looked around, he saw the arm lying on the ground. He tried to check his body without moving it. He didn't have any wound other than his missing arm and the wound on his chest. It looked like both of them were stabbed right in the chest, but George lost one of his arms because of his resistance. Suddenly, he saw a clue. It was already blurred because of the rain, but he could see two characters. He immediately tried to find something in his memory to see if there was anything related to this. He couldn't help but murmur, 1H Kai. Ayaka heard his murmur as she saw him look so focused, and when she shifted her body a bit, she saw 1H written with blood. She saw George's index finger was covered with blood, so George must have written this before he died. Not long after, Shirotsuka Sanae also came to them to examine George's body, but she couldn't find anything other than 1H, so she was perplexed. Kuro Ayaka, Kai Kata. "Do you know anything about this?" Shirotsuka Sanae immediately asked. It was normal to suspect them, since Kai said that the incident of the magical beasts was because of him. However, Kai and Ayaka were completely clueless about this. They shook their heads at the same time. "I don't know anything about this one." Kai shook his head. Shirotsuka Sanae frowned as she remembered something. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Kai nodded with a serious expression, indirectly telling her that he didn't lie. "I don't know why, but they have the same wounds as Fujino Chitose and Carmina Elvera did. All of them died with a single thrust to their hearts," Shirotsuka Sanae said while narrowing her eyes. Ayaka gasped. Kai pondered for a bit before he said, "I truly don't know about this. My speculation is Katsuragi Takaki. But that's all, only speculation, as I don't have any proof for it." Shirotsuka Sanae sighed. "I expect you to say everything you know after this." "I'll tell you anything I can," Kai said. Although he knew that Shirotsuka Sanae was a neutral party, he couldn't be sure. After all, he just found out that Carmina, who seemed to be a normal teammate, turned out to be a spy. If he hadn't realized it at that time, he might have already died. Fine by me, I'm too lazy to deal with this to begin with, and it really sucks to be a teacher, since I'll get a pay cut after this incident. Shirotsuka Sanae was back to her usual self, complaining. Before she became a teacher, she was an elite in the front lines, so she was confident in making Kai open his mouth. But she was a teacher now, so she didn't care about this anymore. She would just record it down and be done with it. She was similar to Kai. She only wanted to survive and live peacefully in this cruel world. so she wanted to extract the information from Kai to make sure she had enough information in case something like this happened again. As for the report for the school, she would use whatever he said about the magical beasts. However, she was a bit curious about the clue that George left behind. Does 1H ring the bell in your mind? Shirotsuka Sanae asked. Both Kai and Ayaka shook their heads. Ayaka then said, Is it something like 1 hour or something? No, it shouldn't be. It should have been only around a few minutes since they were killed, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, Sanae estimated. How about a name? Maybe someone whose name starts with H. Kai said while trying to come up with a name that started with H. Sadly, in their class, none of the students' names started with H. Anyway, I need to take you back to the stadium first before cleaning this up. You can clean your body or whatever in the stadium. I'll visit you to ask a couple of questions later. Sanae shrugged nonchalantly. It was like she wasn't bothered by the death of her students. Teacher, you don't care about this? Ayaka asked. You shouldn't think about this too deeply, since incidents like this often happen in the front lines. You should expect something like losing your comrade. If you delve deeper into this matter, you'll also endanger the lives of your other comrades. Sanae shrugged. Anyway, I need to take you back. Chapter 46. 2 cases. Kai changed his uniform to a dry one. Ayaka also did the same. They were instructed by Shirotsuka Sanae to be on standby inside the stadium. After that, she just flew off again. Kai didn't have anything to do, so he just stayed inside the tent. As for Ayaka, she didn't know how to face Kai after that incident, so she decided to stay outside while carrying an umbrella. It was at this time he suddenly heard Ayaka's voice. Katsuragi Takaki, how are you here? Do you know that your teammates were killed by someone? Ayaka looked at Katsuragi Takaki with a displeased gaze. Well, Ayaka, where are your teammates? Especially that Kai, they were killed by the magical beasts. I don't know why the magical beasts targeted them. It seems that someone wanted to kill them by bringing the magical beasts. If Kai hadn't noticed it, all of us would have died, Ayaka coldly said, her eyes not showing any warmth to the person she was talking to. After Kai cleared the misunderstanding, she thought about it again and again. She had 2 feelings about it. First, she felt a bit of pity for them because they died instead of them. The second feeling was hatred. When she thought about it, she slowly hated them because they wanted to kill her and Kai. But what she herself didn't expect was that the second feeling was far more vivid to her than the first feeling. She could say such a cold thing about them because of her second feeling. Of course, she didn't spite or mock them openly. Surprisingly, after she said that, Kai noticed the slight difference in Katsuragi Takaki's heartbeat. When he noticed that, he knew that the magical beasts were somehow related to him. Don't change the topic. You still haven't answered my question. I saw George and Yuri's dead bodies before I came back here. They were killed by someone, not by magical beasts. You must know something. Ayaka narrowed her eyes. You! Wada Miyako, who was standing beside Katsuragi Takaki, was offended by her words. Still, she was immediately stopped by the cold gaze from Katsuragi Takaki. He then smiled again. Of course I know, all of us were chased by someone, and we decided to split up. But it seemed that he was that person's target. She kept staring at him to see whether he was lying or not. Humph, she snorted and left. That girl Takaki-sama has even… Miyako wanted to complain about Ayaka's attitude, but she was stopped by Katsuragi Takaki's gaze yet again. If you speak rudely to her one more time, I will kill you. Yes. Wada Miyako looked down as she bit her lips. She had done everything she could for him, but Katsuragi Takaki only had eyes for one person, and it was Ayaka. She hated this Ayaka to the bone. Kai was frowning this entire time the moment he heard it. He knew there was something off about the incident of the magical beasts. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything about George. However, he found that Katsuragi Takaki's tone was also not right here. It was as though he was happy when he knew George was dead. He felt the need to investigate the Katsuragi family once again, but he didn't know how he could do that. He remembered how they couldn't do anything the moment Ikeda Kenzo showed his true prowess as a veteran S-rank magician. It was at this time that he thought about torturing Katsuragi Takaki for information. He didn't have any concrete proof, but he could somehow relate everything that happened to him by how he reacted to this. Sadly, His and Tasha's power wasn't enough to contend with the Katsuragi family. If he were to do that, he would reach the point of no return. And if they found out he did it, he and his family would have to bear the wrath of the Katsuragi family. He gritted his teeth. He felt very useless in this situation, especially when he remembered how powerless he was when he fought Ikeda Kenzo. If the Katsuragi family were to make a move against them, Ikeda Kenzo would definitely help them. He and Tasha would be fine, but he still had his father and mother, so he couldn't do anything recklessly. He thought about moving toward another base, such as the US base, which was the closest, or the base in Europe. But if he decided to do that, he would definitely pay them back by at least ending Katsuragi Takaki's life. After all, they had no right to complain about it since they also wanted to kill him. For that, he would need to prepare the money to escape to the US base, since doing that would require a huge sum of money. But what concerned him the most was George's death. He reminded George to be careful against Katsuragi Takaki a few days ago, but he suddenly died. And the clue he left, he was really clueless about it. He didn't really care about the matter as a whole. The only thing he cared about was whether it was related to him or not. If it was related to him, then their situation was really bad, as they would need to escape immediately. He sighed. His life goal was to fight on the front lines carefully and amass enough money, then live the rest of his life peacefully with his wife. It was a simple but carefree dream. He never thought that he would get tangled in such a big problem. Even with Tasha as an S-rank magician, they wouldn't be able to protect their father and mother all the time under the full onslaught of a big family like they, Katsuragi family. As for the government, he never thought of it. The government only appeared to be the figurehead. In fact, United Asia didn't have a single leader because the government was useless. They just created the government to calm the masses. Each prefecture had its own leader, and usually it was the most powerful group in that area. Tokyo had Kudo Group, Miyagi had the Ikeda family, while Hokkaido had the Katsuragi family. It was very hard to fight those big families with just both him and Tasha while protecting their parents. So if they could send their parents to the US base, they would be free to move around and could fight the Katsuragi family with guerrilla tactics. They had an acquaintance in the US base, so he thought they could entrust their parents to them. If everything was settled, they could live normally again here or in the US base. He even had a thought about selling himself to the Kudo group just to get the money. Ayaka was beautiful and wise, while her grandfather seemed to approve of their relationship. But when he thought about that, he felt something empty in his heart. So, he decided to make that idea his last resort. As his current temporary plan, he wanted to ask Tasha to raise money so they could send their parents to another base. After a few more hours, Kai was called by Shirotsuka Sanae. They used an abandoned room inside the stadium. It seemed that Shirotsuka Sanae also did not want to make this meeting public. As for the reason, Kai could imagine her saying, "I need to make a full report if I tell the commander. I'm just a teacher, and I'm too lazy to make the whole report." When he entered the room, Shirotsuka Sanae immediately said, "The guy that you trapped inside the cave had died. Before I could get anything from him, he already killed himself." But it seems that he truly killed Fujino Chitose and Carmina Elvera. As for where he came from or who sent him, I didn't get anything about it. I have a question. Kai hesitated a bit. "What is it?" "Just ask." Sanae straightforwardly said, "Why do you even bother about this? I mean, you complain again and again, but you still do it." Kai wanted to probe how much he could tell her. In fact, if she could be useful, he would use her to counter the Katsuragi family. "He just reminded me of my best friend. Well, she died on the front lines, and I don't really care about friends and family anymore. I only care about myself and this problem. No, your problem with the magical beasts and Inshof Tana's Georgie's murder case. I need to make sure whether those two have any relation or not. If the two cases are related to each other, then I'll need to report it fully, since my livelihood will also be on the line. As you might already know, the government is only a facade to keep the masses from panicking, while the real leaders are the big families in each prefecture. But when big families or powerful people start attacking each other, who do you think will suffer the most?" Kai thought of his parents when he heard her question. He answered seriously, "The common people." "That's right. Although the government is weak, if they have information or some cards in their hands, they might be able to incite the other families to attack this family and solve the problem. If this problem is solved, then people like me will be able to live peacefully. Well, after seeing your eyes, I'm sure that we're pretty similar. We just want to live normally, but problems keep coming into our lives, Shirotsuka Sanae complained and sighed. Indeed. Kai nodded. That's why I want to solve this problem first. Dinkai was startled when he heard this. The sound came from his device, and when he checked it, there was a message from his acquaintance in the US base. He just put it down and continued talking to Shirotsuka Sanae. However, he was surprised when he saw Shirotsuka Sanae open her mouth wide in shock. Chapter 47. Plot armor, get it or not? You. How do you know that person? Shirotsuka Sanae asked. She finally showed a big emotion on her face for the first time. What do you mean? Kai looked at her weirdly. In the message, she saw the picture of Kai's acquaintance. In that picture, there were two women. The first one was a female of the same age as Kai. She had blonde hair with blue crystal eyes. She looked stunning, and her body didn't lose to Ayaka. The second one was also a female, but her age was close to Shirotsuka Sanae. She had dark brown hair, reaching only her shoulder. In the picture, she made a peace sign with her hand and a very big smile. She looked very happy in the picture. I said, "How do you know that person?" Kai tilted his head in confusion. He thought she must know about his acquaintance, since she was a bit famous, so he told her. She's my childhood friend. Her name is Michelle. She visited this place 2 years ago, and I communicate with her once in a while nowadays. No, I mean the person beside her, Sanai said desperately. The person beside her. Kai couldn't understand what she meant. He just explained briefly. She is Yoshie Asuka, her mentor. They live in the US base. She told me that she became her student a year ago. Oh. So she's still alive. Sanai was full of emotion, and tears even started to form in the corner of her eyes. Kai was startled to see that the cold and natural Shirotsuka Sanai could show these many emotions simultaneously. Teacher. Kai frowned. No, she is my best friend. You mean your best friend that you said has passed away? Yes. Kai looked down a bit, weighing something in his mind. Michelle said that she had a tragic incident that almost killed her, and after many twists, she came back to life from that brink of death. After some time, Michelle met her and became her student. I see she's still alive. I'm glad. Shirotsuka Sanae felt relieved. I owed her too much, and she died. She almost died because she wanted to save me. Because she was too overwhelmed by her emotions, she unconsciously started talking about the past. Back then, I was also the same as you students, full of energy. I was fearless and slaughtered magical beasts without thinking of the consequences. It was because of her that I could keep doing that. She always supported me and cleaned up all of my mess. At that time, I accepted a certain mission in Russia. Because of my mistake, I was knocked out by magical beasts, and it was then that she came. She rushed and saved me from the horde of magical beasts. But because we were chased by so many beasts, she decided to hold the rear, and I was told that she died there. She's my best friend, as well as my savior. And I realized how useless I was when I lost her. Even with the new squad that was more powerful than she was, no one could replace her. The squad kept experiencing failures, and I was demoted to become a teacher. I thought I would just lock my emotion and desire, since those accursed things of mine were the ones that caused the disaster. I agreed to become a teacher because it was her dream. She wanted to be a teacher and live peacefully, so I swore to live like that. Kai twitched his eyebrows. He felt that this scene was very familiar. It wasn't his experience, as he clearly remembered that he didn't experience something like this. It was more like a story, where the main character met a powerful foe. He would then get a card that he could use. He thought, this must be that. If I'm not mistaken, this is called plot armor. Well, I don't mind having her to help me though, but the problem is, how will I convince her to help me? Should I blackmail her for this? Kai was in a dilemma. Shirotsuka Sanae calmed herself down and said with a smile on her face, I'm glad to know that she's alive and happy like that. Anyway, we need to go back to our problem here. Oi, don't you think you should say more things about her and say you're going to help me or something because of her? Kai thought. He really needed all the help he could get, and it seemed that she was neutral about this. If he could get a veteran like her to his side, it would greatly improve their strength. Kai shrugged as he said inwardly, "This is reality, not a story. I'm not an MC since the readers will cuss at me as a beta, since I just want to live peacefully. Well, she's not poor, armor as well. I really need to solve the problem with my sister." "Fine, you can ask me anything," Kai nodded. "Well, let's start with the magical beasts first. Care to explain it from the beginning?" Kai nodded. "I noticed the magical beasts from afar, but because of the heavy rain and lightning storm, I could only detect them when they were around a kilometer away from us. We were camping to shelter ourselves from the rain. When I noticed them, I immediately informed the others as we immediately flew toward the stadium using the woods as our cover. Surprisingly, the magical beasts continued to chase us as though they knew where we were without needing to see us. It was at that time that I realized that there was a mole. They weren't chasing me. Instead, they were chasing Carmina Elvera and Fujino Chitose," Kai explained. "You said their target was you." Sanai frowned. "Indeed. After a while, I found out that the beasts were chasing someone and that someone knew the position of Carmina Elvera and Fujino Chitose. I chose to separate from them, and it turned out I was right. I brought Ayaka to hide in a cave. It was then that we met the man that was chased by the magical beasts, and the one that led the magical beasts to our position. He might have wanted to use those magical beasts to make me die naturally. I knew he was targeting me when Ayaka and I hid in the cave. It seemed he was going to hide there until the situation became normal again and left. But at that time, he was cursing because he failed to kill me. I even heard my name come out of his mouth. And not long ago, I was convinced it was Katsuragi Takaki who wanted to kill me. Sadly, the only proof I have is his voice, but I couldn't record it. If I could, I wouldn't mind giving it to you here." Shirotsuka Sanai pondered for a while. "I see. This is a bit difficult. Alright, I'll note this first. Let's go to the second one, about Inshof Tanas Georgie's murder case. Tell me what you know." "I don't have anything to say since I'm clueless about this. I told George to be careful against Katsuragi Takaki a few days ago, and this happened." Kai shrugged. "Then what about the clue, that 1H thing?" Shirotsuka Sanai asked. Kai shook his head. "Nothing comes to my mind. 1 hour or anything, nothing rings a bell." Well, when we examined the bodies of Carmina Elvera and Fujino Chitose, we noticed that they were first attacked by the killer before the magical beasts also attacked them. But I don't think you were lying either, so I'll note this down first and make a report about it. Let's just consider them accidents to make it easy for you and for me. As for the case of Inshof Tanas Georgie, we, the teachers, are also completely clueless. And our clue is only that 1H thing. We don't have any clue other than that, and his case is more troublesome, since he's the Prince of the South. The Prince of the South. Kai frowned. When he heard that, he immediately recalled that name and was surprised. If she were talking about the Crown Prince, it would be the ruler family of Kyushu Island, the third biggest island of former Japan, the Inshof family. He never thought George's background was that big, and if he wasn't mistaken, that family also had an S-rank magician. Yes, we need to give some explanation to his family. Well, we're also clueless, and their family might be able to investigate this case faster than us, so we'll just provide them with the basic information. Luckily, this only happened in this practical test. Their family might not be able to pressure us, since they had been informed about this. Simply put, we're not really that responsible for his life, and we also need to deal with your case. Shirotsuka Sanai said while looking at him. Haha. Kai was trying to cover it up with a chuckle. Alright, I'll help you with this case. Shirotsuka Sanai suddenly declared. What? You? Kai was surprised to hear that, and when he wanted to ask why, she immediately gave the answer. She said with an embarrassed tone, I immediately threw everything away after I lost her, so I can't contact her and she shouldn't be able to contact me either. So in exchange, you need to get me her contact address. Chapter 48. Assassin's Kai was taken aback by her request. He never thought Shirotsuka Sanai could become someone like this. No, it was like she said, she just hid her emotion because of that incident. After knowing that her friend was alright, she decided to leave the seal of her emotion a little bit. Kai did not mind it though, since her help would be great, he said with a smile. Want me to pay you in advance? Sanai looked at him while furrowing her eyebrows. She just felt if she accepted this, she would be in a bad situation. So, she shook her head. No, I will get it later. She decided to do that because Kai seemed not to be the one that would give it for free. He even deliberately said it, advance payment. In other words, he just wanted to make her work to the bone with only that contact. She might be able to get the payment and leave. But considering his sister, Tasha Carter, was one of the S-rank magicians in United Asia, it would be troublesome. That was why she decided to take it a bit easy and asked him for her contact details later as the payment. At that time, she would be able to pull out safely. Kai sighed inwardly as he failed to bait her. Anyway, your help is greatly appreciated. Sanai nodded. Anyway, the test will be cancelled because of this incident. Even though the people do not know the circumstances, just having the thought of magical beasts' horde might come again was enough to make you feel chill. That's why the teachers have agreed to cancel this month's test with the commander's permission. After all, this is only your first test and we have lost 4 people. We are a bit worried about losing more potential elites. Kai nodded. Yeah, so we are going to go back now. No, we will wait for another 3 days. Although the test practically has been cancelled, there is still a potential threat from the enemy. They might attack us while transporting all of you. So we decide to wait for our school's elites to come here, she explained. Our school's elites? Kai tilted his head in confusion. Yes, the headmaster would personally lead our student council to come here. We will go back together with them. After having known this incident, they have been processing all the work they need to do to come here. I also heard that your sister is making a ruckus because of this. Sanai shrugged. Ahaha. Kai could only make a weird smile as he thought, it is coming. He could imagine his sister saying, I will immediately come to Kungye with my teleportation magic. She could do that, but if she did that, she would lose the trust of the government. At least, it would be hard to make money even though the government was only a facade. They had been raising money after their visit to Hokkaido. However, Kai was planning to rush it even more after he came back because of this incident. All right, our matter ends here. I will try to help you as much as possible in this matter, Sanai said as she left the room. Thank you. Kai nodded. But when she was just about to leave the room, Kai grabbed her hand. Oi, don't push your luck. Our cooperation is only me helping you in the investigation, and you will give me her contact. That's all. She glared at Kai, shook his head. There is something wrong. Is there someone? No. 2 people that should come here after this, Shirotsuka. Sanai frowned the moment she heard that. She shook her head. No, I should be the only one to ask you this question, since no one has yet to know about this except me. Kai closed his eyes a bit. He found 2 people's footsteps around them that made him hold her hand. So, hearing all of that, he could not help but think who they were. He then raised his hand while making a magic circle, echo location. The magic circle then turned into a green screen. There were no more yellow dots or red dots. There were only blue dots, which were for humans. Shirotsuka Sanae already knew this magic, but she did not know what Kai wanted to convey. However, just by seeing these 2 blue dots, she realized why he stopped her. She looked at the blue dots' positions. It was a very weird position, as that place was never meant for humans. One of them was in a ventilation system, and the other one was walking a bit farther from their room before stopping inside a store in the stadium. They would miss him if Kai did not have this extraordinary hearing. They are. She looked at Kai. Before I came here, I heard Ayaka talking with Katsuragi Takaki. How is this related to your love affair, Shirotsuka? Sanai spat those words from her mouth. She remembered Ayaka seemed to have a feeling for Kai. It was the same for Katsuragi Takaki, who harbored feelings for Ayaka. Teacher, I feel you are becoming ruder and ruder every second. It seems knowing her alive makes you become a bit annoying, Kai said. Hurry up, explain it to me, Shirotsuka, Sanai said while ignoring Kai's word a moment ago. As I said earlier, Ayaka was talking with Katsuragi Takaki earlier. And when she said, I am still alive, Katsuragi Takaki's heart skipped a beat. So I assume the man in the cave is not alone, Kai explained. So, you are assuming that these people are his men and are going to take your life. But because I am here, they might even kill me to make no witness. Yes. Well, they might also wait for a while until I come out so you won't know. Well, you might notice it after this incident happens, so I think you will be targeted either way. Kai shrugged. It seems there are two people that do not know their position. If they're leaving this area alone and won't come back, I might not be able to catch them. But since they are coming to this place themselves, then we will see who kills who. Sanai smirked. Anyway, we will target the one in the ventilation system first. Soon enough, he will come to the ventilation in this room. She pointed her finger to the ventilation in the ceiling. Because of the confusion, they will assume we will go out of the room and fight him in a bigger area. At that time, the other one would ambush us from the shadow, or might even snipe us from afar. That's why we will be the one to attack them. Our first target will be the one in the ventilation. I will set a trap, and we will try to act like we are talking about this incident. If he arrives just right above us, the trap will kill him. After that, we will use the ventilation system to go around the second person and ambush him. Do note that we won't kill the second one to extract any information he has. Understood. Kai nodded. He felt he did not need to make any plans since she would take care of that. If it were him, he would also do the same. So Kai did not have any objection. But will you be able to go through the ventilation system? I think it is a complicated maze. Sanai asked as she doubted Kai's ability. Well, I don't have the map for the ventilation system, but my ears should be able to pick it up and form an imaginary map in my brain. I will try to guide you to the best I can. Kai nodded. If you can't, I can still use my wind element to fill the ventilation system so I can trace the path. But I will need to use a bit more of my magic power, which is exhausting. So I will have you work too, since you are the one who is in the center of this mess. Sanai shrugged. I know. Kai nodded. Shirotsuka Sanae then made a simple trap just right under the ventilation system. Her plan was to have him inform her if the enemy arrived. At that time, she would stretch her hand like she was yawning to activate the trap, thus killing the enemy. They then started talking again. They were just repeating the conversation they had just now, though, about magical beasts issue. When the assassin came and heard their conversation, his heart skipped a bit, because he heard Kai said, "This magical beasts incident is Katsuragi Takaki's order, I am sure of it." The assassin was surprised to hear that. He had been informed that the young lord was planning something, but to think he was going to kill Kai Carter. He only accepted this mission for the sake of killing George per order from the main family. But Katsuragi Takaki said there was an eyewitness that was in the process of interrogation, so he decided to help. He also had heard about the magical beasts incident, but to think the order came from Katsuragi Takaki, it was shocking news for him, especially since his target turned out to be Kai Carter, the younger brother of Tasha Carter. It bewildered him. After all, Tasha Carter was considered highly in the main family, as she was a big piece in their entire plan, and killing her younger brother would prove to be fatal for this operation. If the family head knew about this, he would be furious at the young lord. Not good. I need to inform the family head, he thought. But before he could retreat, a flying star knife suddenly came in front of him and pierced his head. Chapter 49. Assassins Part 2. A few seconds earlier, the moment he noticed the assassin, Kai immediately looked down like he was weighing something and said, "Let me ponder it a little." See, Shirotsuka Sanae instantly realized that the assassin was already above them, since this was the code that they decided. Shirotsuka Sanae also did her part. She yawned while stretching her hand above her head. It led to the movement of the string that was tied onto her finger. The string then released the trap and swung her star knife. The star knife then slipped through the gap and pierced the assassin's head. When she was stretching her hand, Kai could also see a heavenly sight, as it was showing the huge cleavage of her developed body. It would be a fascinating sight for him if he were a normal male student. Sadly, the one in front of her was Kai, and Kai never had any interest in these kinds of things. So, the moment he saw it, he didn't have that much feeling to the sight. For him, who was already accustomed to women because of his sister, it didn't turn him on or the sort. After a few more seconds, Kai finally said, "He's dead." He determined whether the assassin was alive or dead based on his heartbeat. Shirotsuka Sanae sent her wind to see whether Kai was right or not, and it seemed that the assassin was truly dead. They then removed the body from the ventilation system and Shirotsuka Sanai immediately did her job. She immediately stripped the enemy's clothes until he was completely bare. She didn't have any particular reaction when she saw the assassin's naked body. In fact, there was a trace of disgust when she saw it. You need to get used to these things. If I become embarrassed just by seeing a naked man, I wouldn't be qualified to become an elite, especially something like the deck over here. There are lots of magical beasts that have bigger ones. Luckily, we're not in some kind of porn comic or hentai, so there wouldn't be anything like getting raped by magical beasts and having to bear their children. In the worst case, we would only get tormented for a bit before dying. Shirotsuka Sanai said without any expression, just like a proper adult. Kai only nodded at this. He also didn't care about this, since it would be better for him to kill magical beasts rather than having to observe their ducks. As for unconscious naked women or something along the line, he felt that he wouldn't get turned on by something like that. He didn't know why, but it felt weird for him to see those kinds of things. He would rather chop their arms than rape her. Maybe he was just weird, but he didn't care. They checked the man thoroughly but didn't see anything in particular, so they gave up. All right, you go inside first, Shirotsuka Sanai said. You don't expect me to go first, right? And you'll see my panties while I'm crouching. I don't care about it though. Still, you're the navigator here, so you go first. Kai simply nodded, ignoring her dirty talk. He jumped and grabbed the ceiling before entering the ventilation system. As expected, there wasn't much space inside, so they would only be able to slowly crawl in this space. After Kai entered, Shirotsuka Sanai followed suit and entered the ventilation system. Still, because of her glamorous body, she got a bit stuck when entering. She was forced to use her wind element to move into the ventilation system. I'm a wind element magician, so I'm aerodynamic, was her excuse. Kai only shook his head helplessly and led them to the other enemy. He already placed a sound insulation room right above him, so it would be all right even if they made a sound. I can see her now. Oi, are you sure you can talk? Shirotsuka Sanai said in a very low voice. Don't worry, I've made a sound insulation room. This way, he wouldn't be able to hear a single thing, even if we make a huge ruckus, since the room will isolate us. No sound can leak out of this room, he said with confidence. Shirotsuka Sanai was astonished. She never knew there was skill like this, since usually sound magic would be something like transmitting the sound of someone or something without any communication devices or enhancing sound frequencies. Oi, your ability is really special. How about working as a spy? I think you'll become a good spy after some training. If you have more firepower, I'm sure you'll be the #1 spy in the world. Are you serious in giving that advice to your student, teacher? Kai twitched his eyebrows. I'm serious. I believe that you'll rise as an unorthodox sound magician. It's just that I still don't know whether your firepower is enough to get you to the top, she explained with a serious expression. Kai couldn't see it though. You're overestimating me, Kai humbly said. Anyway, move forward a little bit. I need to see the assassin too, Sanai said. All right. He then started crawling forward so she could also see the assassin, but before he could even react, Shirotsuka Sanai immediately came down. Because it was still in the range of Kai's sound insulation room, the assassin didn't hear her. She used this chance to send her star knife and tangled the assassin's neck with its string. The other star knife was used to tie her legs as well as her hands up. The assassin was surprised because she was already tied up before she knew it. Not long after that, Kai slowly came down without saying a single complaint. How? The assassin tried to glance at Shirotsuka Sanai, but when he saw Kai Kata, he immediately recognized his face. He never thought he was also here. Wait, teacher, she's the one who killed George, Kai said. What? Shirotsuka Sanai was taken aback by what he said. On the other hand, the assassin's heart skipped a bit. She had also been informed by the young lord about how there was an eyewitness, and considering all of this, she realized that Kai Kata was the eyewitness he was talking about. This was bad. If Kai knew about this, the chance of acquiring Tasha Kata would be gone to puff, as they would be wary against them. Sadly, both of them didn't know that Kai was bluffing. The moment Kai felt her heart skip a beat, he knew she was really the one who killed George. It seems that you're really George's murderer, Kai said. The assassin didn't waver after hearing what Kai said. As long as she didn't admit it, she would be okay, as Kai was still unsure about it. She was trying to kill herself by the poison she could activate with magic. Shirotsuka Sanae immediately noticed that as she saw a magic circle appeared in front of his chest. Fortunately, Kai had seen this. It was the same technique the sniper that targeted him a while ago used. He flicked his finger just right after the magic circle formed. Ding! A noisy and disturbing sound reverberated in their ears. The magic circle was immediately destroyed. Shirotsuka Sanae immediately tightened the string on her body, even though the sound was still ringing in her head. "Damn it, you bastard. You should have warned me first before doing it," Sanae complained, glaring at Kai. "If I had warned you first, she might have died before I stopped her." Kai shrugged. "Fair enough." Sanae then glared at the assassin. "So, how should we do this? Will you talk, or do I need to torture you first?" "You won't get anything from me. For the sake of my family, we're ready to die. So feel free to torture me as much as you like, because I won't flinch," she said while blood started seeping from her mouth. "You don't need to ask him anything, teacher. She's the one who killed George. If we send her and the one from before, maybe George's family will be able to track them," Kai said. "Are you sure?" She glanced at the assassin, who didn't make any expression even after everything Kai said. "Yes, she can pretend to be calm after the second or the third, but there's always a reaction for the first." The moment I said it, her heart skipped a beat. At that time, she wasn't prepared for the torture yet, since she hadn't realized her situation. "That's why I'm sure she's the perpetrator. As for who sent her, we should just leave it to George's family to find out," Kai explained. "How about saying, 'I'll rape you if you won't talk'? Maybe it'll be enough of a threat for her. I'll even turn a blind eye if you want to actually do that." "Stop joking. I don't have any interest in that." Kai shrugged. Shirotsuka Sanae looked at Kai for a while to make sure whether Kai was telling the truth or not. After considering his circumstances, he didn't have a reason to lie. "All right, I'll believe you. Have you considered my previous suggestion? I think you're really good at espionage. Your ability is useful for eavesdropping, spying, scouting, torturing, interrogation, and eavesdropping." "Why did you say eavesdropping twice?" He twitched his eyebrows. "Well, I didn't lie. The first one is for the espionage, while the one is for espionage in a lewd way," she said, ignoring the fact that she was still strangling an assassin with her string. "A lewd way?" Kai tilted his head in confusion. "I mean, you can surely hear women bathing and such." "Luckily, you seem not to be someone perverted," Sanae joked a bit more. Kai got a bit offended by this. He wasn't someone who would do something like that since he had already done that even though he didn't want to. "Anyway, I'll send this one to the commander first," she said as she knocked the assassin out. Chapter 50. Tasha Carter. The next day, the students had been sent back to the base. After that incident, the commander had informed them about the two incidents and formally announced the end of the practice class. After that, they were informed to wait for the dean and the student council to escort them back to United Asia. So, they had to wait in the stadium for 2 days until they could go back. In the meantime, the commander decided to teach them about scouting and patrolling instead. After all, they wanted to make the wait productive for all of them. It was not until a few hours later that they finally saw a series of helicopters hovering in the sky above the stadium. A few students, led by a muscular man, slowly descended to the ground. They were going to report to the commander before one of them suddenly spotted Kai. One of them didn't care about anything and broke the rank. She teleported to his front and tried to hug him. Unfortunately, Kai suddenly reached out his hand instinctively and grabbed her head to stop her advance. She didn't care about it. She went around him and observed him up and down, making sure that her beloved brother didn't get hurt or anything. After confirming he was fine, she finally felt relieved. She said, "I'm Gua." Haruko suddenly appeared behind her and hit her head. After that, she grabbed her head and dragged her back while saying to everyone, "I'm sorry for her inconveniencing behavior. She's just worried about her little brother." The students just dumbfoundedly looked at her. They knew Kai was Tasha Carter's younger brother, but it was very surprising to see such a famous person act like that. After all, in front of the media, she only showed the elegant side of her, but seeing that side of her, it was very refreshing, especially for the male students. They were thinking something like, "An elder sister that's really worried about her brother Mose," or "I'm jealous." Of course, at this moment, Katsuragi Takaki was the only one who had a serious expression. He looked at Tasha Carter with his eyes narrowed, trying to come up with another plan. After reporting to the commander, the first thing Tasha did was visit Kai. Sadly, at that time, Ayaka was beside him. Tasha's attention immediately shifted to her. She looked at Ayaka with narrowed eyes. I see. We meet again. Yay, yes. According to my knowledge, the students must use shared tents in this practice test. I assume you shared a tent with my Kai, right? Yes. She nodded timidly. There was even a tinge red on her face. Then you can switch with me. We got an extra tent, so all of us will get one. You're not Kai's spouse, so I think you should get your own tent, especially since you're Kudo Group's princess. You don't want to make a huge rumor with something like Kudo Group's princess suddenly getting pregnant in her first year or something, right? Or are you planning to seduce him? She glared at Ayaka. Wah, what pregnant seduce him? No. I'm just his partner on the battlefield, Ayaka said hurriedly, a bit embarrassed. Good, then we'll switch tents. I'll protect my Kai from predators. Tasha didn't say she was the only predator. She remembered that Kai also had 2 other teammates. But when she tried to look for them, she couldn't find them. Even though you're his sister, I think Kai also has his right to speak. You said you're protecting Kai from predators, but aren't you one of them as well? Ayaka didn't back down. She didn't know why, but she didn't want to give up her position and switch tents. Just before the fight started, Katsuragi Takaki finally made his entrance. He looked at Kai before turning to Tasha. He was angry because he couldn't take how his Ayaka and his target, Tasha, was flirting in front of him, fighting over Kai. I'm blessed to have such a beautiful S-rank magician as my upperclassman. I'm Katsuragi Takaki, from the Katsuragi family in the north, and I'm your fan, Miss Tasha Carter. Katsuragi Takaki bowed like a gentleman. I came to Genesis Magical Academy just to see you, and have you as my upperclassman. Anger also started swelling inside Tasha's heart, but if she acted according to her anger, all of the plans that she devised with Kai would go to smoke. She could only politely greet him back. I'm honored to hear that from Katsuragi's family successor. I see, so you're my younger brother's classmate. Please take care of my younger brother. Of course, if it is my idol's order, then I'll happily oblige, Takaki said. The male students were clicking their teeth as they could see why Katsuragi Takaki showed himself. He was targeting Tasha Carter to be a part of his harem. After all, Tasha Carter's beauty was on par with Ayaka. Still, unlike Ayaka's graceful body, she had a seductive body that could make men wander around with their minds. I need to tell you something after this, so I'll meet you at night. For now, you'll need to deal with him, but be careful, he whispered. He then left together with Ayaka. In their eyes, Kai wanted to create a perfect chance for Katsuragi Takaki to talk with Tasha. Sadly, unbeknownst to them, he just wanted to make Takaki lower his guard by talking to her. A few hours later, Kai came to Tasha's tent. Ayaka was already asleep as she was a bit tired since she'd been constantly researching her magic. Kai made sure no one followed him with his ears. And the moment he entered Tasha's tent, he immediately put up a sound insulation room. But when he saw Tasha's expression, he knew she was mad because of what happened earlier. Sadly, he didn't have time to listen to her complaints. She also knew that, so she decided to calm herself down with a cup of coffee. We have a big situation now. I need you to raise money as soon as possible. We need to have at least enough for our parents to escape to the US base within a month. Can you do it? I can do it probably. Our family is only a small family, and even though I'm an S-rank magician, I can't make money easily since I'm still a student. But what's the rush? Do you know about the magical beasts incident? Or at least, have the commander told you about that? Yes, I've been informed, but your teacher kept looking at me. Well, I made a deal with her. She'll help us in the investigation against the Katsuragi family. Anyway, just as he wanted to explain, Tasha immediately stopped him and grabbed his shoulders. Wait, you made a deal with her? What kind of deal? Don't tell me you're selling your body for this. It is just your imagination. Anyway, it won't cost us that much for her cooperation. In the meantime, I want you to focus on gaining money and send our parents to the US base. We'll have Michelle's family take care of them there. Oh, that girl. She twitched her eyebrows when she heard that name. Anyway, The magical beasts were targeting me, and the perpetrator was Katsuragi Takaki. However, there was another accident. The South Prince, George, has been murdered. Although we already know the assassins, we're not sure about who sent them. However, the fact they wanted to kill me, we might be able to relate it to Katsuragi Takaki. After failing to kill me with those magical beasts, he wanted to kill me with the assassins that killed George, Kai explained. Tasha contemplated for a while. She could somehow relate them, but they lacked proof at the moment. Our best clue would be from the magical beasts incident. 1H, Kai said while writing 1H on the paper. Yes, I tried to come up with something, but the best would be something like 1 hour. I can't think of anything other than that. I know, but the fact that my life is targeted is enough for us to make preparations, and the one that attacked us is Katsuragi Takaki. No, the Katsuragi family. We might be able to escape from them, but our parents will be their next target. So, we need to have them leave United Asia. That's why our current priority is making money. You hear me? We need to send our parents to the US base within a month, Kai said while clenching his fist. I know I'll try my best. If you can't, maybe I'll sell myself to Kudo Group. Well, Ayaka is a smart and powerful girl. She's also beautiful. Her grandfather also seems to accept the relationship. When we visited her family back then, Kai shrugged his shoulders. The moment she heard that, her body shook, and she involuntarily dropped her coffee. The coffee covered his 1H, making the H become longer until it looked like an UN. When he saw this, he thought of something ridiculous, as he remembered that incident happened while raining. He tried to recall everything, such as the body position, the rain, the blood, and the writing. He finally realized something ridiculous. Chapter 51. Realization. Kai Carter thought of something ridiculous because of the spilled coffee. He remembered that the incident happened while it was raining. George used his fresh blood to write on that stone. The rain then swept his blood downward a little. He tried to formulate what kind of 2 characters he wrote, and arrived at an incredible conclusion. What if the character George wrote on the stone was KTs and not 1H, Kai murmured. When she heard his murmur, she could understand what he meant by KTs and immediately frowned. You have quite an imagination, don't you? I know we have a problem with Katsuragi Takaki, but you can't just relate everything to him and be done with it. Kai only shook his head, not taking offense at her remark. I should explain it a bit more to you. Do you have a photo of the clue? Yeah. They just distributed it to us at the meeting. If we can't find anything even with that clue, we'll give George's family the power to investigate, Tasha said while taking out her device. She then opened the photo of George and the 1H behind him. After seeing the photo once again, Kai's guess was basically confirmed, as expected. Tasha looked at him in confusion. So, can you explain it to me? If you can't explain it to me, then no one will believe it. I can. Kai nodded as he pointed at the 1H in the photo. Look at these 2 characters. Usually, number 1 would have a diagonal line on top of it, like a hat. But in this photo, it doesn't have that diagonal line. But because the rain washed the blood a little bit, the blood flowed down a little bit according to the rock's texture. That made a little diagonal line, and also made us think it was 1. In fact, it was an upside down. T's then, how about the H? I can't imagine how you can say it's actually a K, Tasha said. Look at the left part. Don't you feel that it's strange seeing the left stroke so biffy compared to the right one? And the thickness isn't the same on the top. It's suddenly bent in a weird way. If you think of it as an upside down K, where the edge of the diagonal strokes flow down, I think you'll know whether I'm right or wrong, Kai explained. She looked down, weighing it in her mind. Although she had yet to believe all of the things Kai said, Kai indeed had a point there. If it was an upside down T, then it would correlate with the one they had, since the diagonal stroke on the top would practically be non-existent. As for the H, she didn't know if it was really an upside down K. It was true that the top of the left part bent in a weird way. If the rain washed the blood downward, she could understand why Kai said it was an H. However, she felt that something was missing. If it was an upside down K, then shouldn't the thick part on the K be on the right? Tasha questioned with an unsure tone. Kai shook his head once again, smiling at that question. I shouldn't say upside down. Rather, it's inverted. What do you mean? Tasha was confused. It might be because I'm right in front of you and I'm looking at the picture upside down, but I can see this. If you were George and wanted to write KTs while leaning on a stone, Then you would write it inverted, Kai said as he slowly turned the picture 180 degrees. The moment Kai turned the picture, Tasha dropped her jaw in shock. Although the blood part was a bit disturbing, it didn't stop her from imagining KT. She was too shocked to see that behind the 1H. If it hasn't been raining yesterday, she could certainly deny him again. Tasha thought for a while before saying, but it will be a bit problematic to explain it to those guys from the army. Well, I'll try to do whatever I can. Maybe they'll understand what I'm saying. If possible, I want to at least persuade the army to try investigating the Katsuragi family in tomorrow's meeting. After all, just as how the Katsuragi family is the ruler of the north, George's family is the ruler of the south. So if I use the right words, I should be able to move the army. Kai nodded in agreement with her suggestion. If the army could be moved, they should be able to buy some time. Within that time, they would move their parents to the US base so they could fight without worrying about them. Unfortunately, little did they know how important they were in the eyes of the Katsuragi family. All right, I'll leave the persuasion to you, but is the army enough? Kai asked. He was wondering whether he should ask Shirotsuka-sanai about this, but he forgot to ask for her contact number. Tasha shook her head, shooting Kai's hope down. She added, of course. The army is the dog of the government, and they wouldn't be enough to oppose the Katsuragi family in the north. But there's another family that will get a direct confrontation with the Katsuragi family because of this incident. George's family. Ah, that's one too. Besides George's family, there is one more. Kai was utterly clueless about this. He pondered for a moment, but nothing came into his mind. George was also a student of Genesis Magic Academy, and the one that oversees the students is the Student Council. With this incident, the Student Council, no, to be precise, the Student Council president will be forced to move. In other words, she'll use her family's influence to investigate this matter. With the addition of George's family, they should be able to pressure the Katsuragi family for the time being, Tasha explained. Is that true? Kai wanted to make sure he didn't know that it was like that. After all, after thinking about the matter, Yajima Haruko might move the Student Council to investigate this matter, but not her family unless it was an obligation from the school. Yes, our Student Council president will need to use her Yajima family's influence to investigate this together with the army and George's family. After all, the Student Council alone wouldn't be able to contend with both the army and George's family. So, she'll at least need to use her Yajima family's influence to investigate it hand in hand, instead of being forced to investigate it like a slave. This is not an obligation, but a matter of saving face. The Yajima family is the ruler of Gunma. If their princess were to be treated like a slave by the army and George's family, they won't swallow it down. Because of this, she'll need to obey He family and use their influence. Ah. Kai was finally enlightened. But couldn't you just explain it like that since the beginning, rather than going about it in a roundabout way? She pouted when she heard that. I just want to talk with you longer. If I end the conversation early, you'll just go back to your tent. He sighed. All right, I'll leave the persuasion to you. See, you're going back since the business is finished now. She pouted while looking away. Ahaha, I'll make it up to you later, Kai said. After that, he left the tent before walking toward Shirotsuka-sanai's tent. He couldn't hear any sound inside Shirotsuka-sanai's tent when he arrived. He thought that she was patrolling around, so he planned to ask her at a later date. But when he turned around, he felt a sound wave coming from the air, so he looked up and saw Shirotsuka-sanae descend. So, what are you, a student, doing in front of your teacher's tent? Are you going to fantasize about me or peep with your ability, Mr. Student? Sanae narrowed her eyes while releasing a bit of killing intent from her body. Most people would be frightened, either from the killing intent or the misunderstanding. Luckily, Kai always thought it would be better if he didn't act like that to make the matter clear without inviting any misunderstanding. He remained calm and looked into her eyes. No. It's just, I don't know how to contact you, and I've deciphered the real meaning behind the clue George left behind. Ho Sanae grabbed his shoulder and said, Tell me, do you have a meeting tomorrow? Kai asked. Yes, how do you know? Then you'll learn about it tomorrow from my sister. I'm a bit too tired to explain it again, Kai said. You cheeky bastard. Give me your communication device. Sanae stretched her hand to him. Kai didn't say anything and took out a small capsule from his pocket before handing it to her. The capsule was thin, but had around 10 centimeters in length. This device was like a smartphone before civilization was overturned. She also took one out of her pocket before turning both devices. Both of them suddenly projected a blue translucent screen. In Sanaya's device, it showed her picture as well as her identification number. It was also the same in Kai's device, but it showed his data. After the devices finished scanning, she returned the device to him and walked away. I'll inform you about the investigation through this later. As for you, don't ask me anything weird, especially if you're trying to hit on me. You're not a harem protagonist in a story just because harem is legal, so don't try to hit on me since you're going to fail. Ahahaha. Kai shrugged. This teacher was really unique, especially her explanation, whether it was about this or about penis. Chapter 52. Childhood. After he got what he needed, he went back to his tent. But in the way, he suddenly saw a young lady. She had long red hair with a beautiful hairpin on her hair. Every step she took was elegant. It seemed that she was a young miss from a prominent family. Her graceful body was slowly illuminated by the moonlight. She wore a one-piece white dress instead of a military uniform. Kai didn't know why, but he felt he had seen her in the past. That was what his instinct told him. But he couldn't recall when he did or who she was. Noticing his presence, she turned back and saw Kai with a surprised look. When Kai saw her, he finally recognized who she was. She was the student council president, Yajima Haruko. The thought that he had seen her in the past suddenly vanished. Isn't it Kai Carter? What are you doing here at this time? She smiled and asked. Just visited my sister. Kai casually answered. Is that so? She must be worried about you since you got attacked by magical beasts. Yeah, Kai simply responded. Anyway, are you going back to your tent? She asked. That's what I'm planning to do. Kai nodded. Kai, I can call you this, right? Feel free, you're my senior, so I think it is fine. Haruko didn't know why, but she felt frustrated when she saw Kai act so casually. Do you want to join the student council? I mean, you'll be with your sister more often, she added inwardly. You'll also be with me more often if you join. I don't think I'm suited to be a part of the student council. I chose to become a student of the Magical Academy just to rack up some achievements so I can lead a normal life. Kai shook his head. Is that so you really haven't changed? She unconsciously murmured. Haven't changed. Kai looked at her in confusion. It's like your sister said. You just want to live leisurely without thinking about any problems. She immediately corrected herself while sweating. Yeah, I know that we need to kill magical beasts to rule the world once again. But I don't think I have that kind of dream. I sometimes think, if humanity manages to rule the earth once again, what will this planet become like in the future? He said while looking at the bright moon and stars in the dark sky. What do you mean? Many articles said the earth was horrible back then. Humanity damaged the earth and overused resources like oil and gas, making pollution everywhere. The ice on the poles started melting, and the ocean rose. Then there were also climate changes, extreme weather and such. We can't even see the moon and stars shining brightly like this in a busy town. I'm not a romanticist, but it's truly relaxing just to lie down on the ground and see the moon and stars without thinking of any problems. Kai explained while appreciating the moon and stars. Yeah, I've read something like that. I heard back then, people love to climb the mountain and lie down to see the moon and stars. Imagining, it makes my mind relax. As for how horrible this planet was back then, I think it won't be a problem anymore, since we can use magic power to replace those energy supplies. Haruko smiled. Yeah, I know that. Kai closed his eyes. If you want to live that way, how about becoming my husband? You can live leisurely and get 3 meals a day plus snacks. You can even skip bathing and just relax, she said with a teasing smile. Looking at that smile, Kai shook his head. Please don't joke about that. Although I look like someone who doesn't have any motivation, I still have my pride and rules. Of course, I heard you're very protective concerning your family. She chuckled. Anyway, the student council can help you with that if you join the student council. With the help of the student council, you can easily enter the army as soon as you graduate from Genesis Magical Academy. After being in service for humanity for a few years, I think you'll be able to retire and enjoy the rest of your life. I can say this because I've seen your ability. So, how about it? Are you interested in joining? Are you a saleswoman or something? Kai asked. Ah, I don't mean to be rude though. Ha ha ha. I'm still a young lady from a big house, you know. This is one of the skills I need to learn. She smiled, knowing that Kai was only joking. I'll still pass. I have a feeling that I'll have a ton of burdens if I become a part of the student council, Kai said. Then, how about we exchange our contact details? You can contact me if you're interested in the future. She smiled as she took out her personal device. Kai didn't really mind exchanging contacts with her, since his sister was also a part of the student council. He also remembered that she might use her family influence to pressure the Katsuragi family, which might be useful. After doing the same thing Shiratsuka Sanai did, she gave his device back. Then, I need to go back now, Kai said. Yes, good night, good night. Kai nodded and left. Looking at his bag, she sighed. You truly don't remember me. I guess I'll be the one to approach you. Well, I have your contact now, so I can talk with you anytime. She made a disappointed smile before closing her eyes. She was reminiscing about the scene where she met Kai for the first time. It was around a decade ago, when Kai's family had yet to adopt Tasha. Kai was 6 years old at that time, but because of his hearing, he had matured earlier than average children since he could hear many things. Because of her family matter, she almost got kidnapped by the opposing family. At that time, Kai suddenly appeared in front of her and took her somewhere. He led her from one place to another, until they finally lost their pursuers. Kai helped her with his extraordinary hearing so they could flee from the kidnappers. His appearance was like a fairy tale prince's. After losing their pursuers, Kai took her to the park to chill down. There was another person that seemed to be waiting for. Kai. She had the same age as him with beautiful blonde hair. Her blue crystal eyes socketed beautifully, that one would think she would be a charmer in the future. As soon as she noticed Kai, she walked toward him. Kai, where did you go? Sorry, I just did my job like we promised. Kai smiled. Promise? You mean becoming a hero? Yes. A hero is not someone who will only save humanity from magical beasts, but also bad people. Look, I helped her from people that chased her, he said with a big smile. She looked at the red-haired young girl behind him. She appeared to be a year or 2 years older than they were. Nice to meet you. I'm Michelle, and this is Kai. We just had our 6th birthday a month ago. Do you know why they chased you? If you know them, then I'll need to hit this guy since he made a mistake by bringing you here, Michelle said. No. My parents said they're bad people, and because of my family business, our 2 families are in a fight or something. I was going home with my butlers, but we were attacked, and my butler left to fight them. A few of them managed to get past him and chased me, so I ran. It was then that I met Kai. He helped me earlier, so don't hit him, she explained. Well, if that's the case, then I won't do anything. Michelle smiled. What's your name? You're older than us, right? I'm Sakura, 8 years old. She didn't say her real name was to protect them too. If they were involved any more than this, she was afraid she would drag her prince in this mess. So you're 2 years older than us. Well, we're on a family trip, so we'll be gone in the next few days. But having known you is also not too bad. Michelle chuckled. She sighed, envious of her free lifestyle. She also wanted to play like them too, and if she weren't in this situation, she would love to know them better and become their friend. Why do I need to deal with this? I just want to play around, live to the fullest, marry someone who can protect me like Kai. Then, we'll live leisurely without thinking about any problems like this. I'm content with a small family. Their lifestyle is free and happy. I just want to live like that, she said, lamenting. Haha, what a nice dream to have. But we're going to fight magical beasts and bad people. After that, maybe live together with Kai, Michelle said with her children's imagination. Kai was surprised to hear she wanted to live together with him. What, do you have something to say? No. Kai looked away. I want that too. Haruko suddenly said. What, but you said you want to live peacefully, Michelle said. No, I mean living together with Kai. Looks like a fairy tale prince, she said with stars in her eyes. Chapter 53. Wait, what? Ahem, you can't. My parents said Kai is mine, so no one else can have him, Michelle said. Hey, since when? I didn't hear anything about it. Kai looked at her with a shocked face. My parents already said that. Both my father and mother said you can marry anyone, but I should be the first one, she said, trying to recall what happened back in the house. Then, can I join too? I don't mind being second, Haruko said. Can we even talk about this? Kai twitched his eyebrows. He remembered at one time when a kid like him said something like this. His parents said he shouldn't talk about this because he was too small. Sadly, he was ignored by both of them. Michelle said righteously, "All right, you can. Even if you're the older one, I'm still the first, so you need to call me big sister." Haruko nodded cheerfully. "But your dream is also a good one. Just imagining living leisurely like that makes me drool a bit," Kai suddenly said. "Ah." Haruko opened her mouth in surprise. "What did you say you promised me to fight together?" Michelle glared at him. "I mean, it's just a wish of mine. I don't mind stealing or giving my powers to someone else. I'm a bit tortured by it after all. I thought since I have these powers, I should use it to protect everyone, but now that I think about it, as long as my family is fine, I don't think I really care about anything else. If someone else can use this power and fight magical beasts, then I'll gladly give it to them." "You know about my power, right?" Kai said with a sour expression. I know your power and the things you've experienced, but I still think you should go to the front lines and fight magical beasts," Michelle said with a downcast tone. Kai had told her about his power and such, and she even cried when she heard all of that back then. But when she thought about Kai leaving the front lines while she fought all of those magical beasts, she felt very empty, as though she had lost her motivation. Kai scratched his head, thinking the words to cheer her up. "Then, how about we combine both of them?" Michelle and Haruko looked at him, perplexed by what he meant by combining both of them. "I'll go to the front lines and rack up achievements. After I've done enough, I'll retire and enjoy the rest of my life," he declared. "That's good enough," Michelle and Haruko said at the same time. Michelle just thought it was good, since he was burdened by his ability, so retiring and enjoying his life was what he deserved. As for Haruko, she was just happy since Kai had the same dream. "Is that so, hehehe?" Kai grinned. Then, the talk continued until the sun set, and Haruko had to go back. When Haruko remembered it again, she finally felt something off. "Now that I think about it, I was the one who made him like this, wasn't I?" She twitched her eyebrows, having no words in her mind. Ultimately, she sighed. "I reap what I sow. If I can persuade him more and more, maybe he'll remember me." She took out her device and saw the treasured photo. It was a photo of her with Kai and Michelle in the park. Kai was in the middle, giving them two big peace signs. Michelle was circling her arms on his neck while making a big smile. She was on his right, a bit embarrassed as she tried to grab Kai's hand. After that day, I never saw them again since they'd gone back. Oh, right, Michelle wasn't a citizen of United Asia and just came to visit Kai. After a bit more time, I heard she went back to the US base. People say it's foolish to cling to childhood memories, especially about marrying and such, since I was just a kid. But I never once thought it was a burden, nor was it just an empty dream. Ever since that day, I still love him. Just looking at his back when he saved me, I felt that everything would be fine. And recalling the warmth of his hand, I feel energized again. Still, I wonder, if Michelle were to know that Kai already has Tasha and the one who came a bit later, Ayaka, around him, what will she say? No, I'm sure she'll say something like, "I'll always be the first one." She chuckled, recalling the memory she had with them the next morning. The commander called for a morning meeting to brief the student council members as well as teachers to protect the students on their way home. It was at this time that Tasha suddenly came to the front and explained what she found about George's case. She explained how the 1H was actually KT and the reason behind it. After several debates with the teachers and commanders, they finally bought it. Only Sanaya knew it was Kai who discovered it because of last night. She never thought it was like that. To think Katsuragi Takaki was the one behind the two incidents. She felt that the matter was far deeper than she imagined. Kai was the S-rank magician Tasha Carter's younger brother. As for George, he was the South Prince, and his grandfather was an S-rank magician. Of course, she didn't know that Katsuragi Takaki targeted Kai out of jealousy. All she knew at the moment was the fact the Katsuragi family was planning something big. She remembered the first message she received from Kai last night. The Katsuragi family managed to manipulate Ikeda Kenzo to do their bidding. "I met him in Hokkaido, and it seemed he wouldn't leave anytime soon." She felt a chill down her spine when she read that. After all, the name of Ikeda Kenzo as an S-rank magician was undoubtedly famous. If this were a war between the North and the South, then they wouldn't need to kill Kai, or maybe Tasha. But the fact that they targeted them was hard to swallow. She was wondering how she could investigate them. If Ikeda Kenzo were there, then it would be hard to infiltrate their ranks. She decided not to do anything for the time being. Like Tasha had expected, the army would help George's family with the investigation. As one who was responsible for the students in the academy, Haruko would lead her family to help with the investigation. So, after getting pressured by those three influences, she should have more space to operate. She thought about backing down from this problem. Aside from getting the contact of her best friend, she had another reason to participate. If war really came, then the fight would most likely take place around here. After all, both George and Katsuragi Takaki were students of Genesis Magical Academy. So, to protect her peace, she needed to be prepared, and by giving Kai some information, she would get her best friend's contact details. It would be killing two birds with one stone. After the meeting, the student council started investigating George's incident with Tasha's clue. Of course, they tried to ask the assassin that Shirotsuka Sanae caught about it. Sadly, the assassin didn't say anything, leaving no other clue besides KT. They tried to probe Katsuragi Takaki, but he remained silent. The army couldn't do anything other than probing, since the government was too useless. They just left it to George's family, so they could have George's family as the front. Yajima Haruko also had this responsibility as the student council president. She agreed to have her influence help them in the investigation. Luckily, the principal seemed to be assisting them too. After finishing their investigation, they finally went back right after lunch. The student council and the teachers were guarding the students with full alert. The students were also scared, as they might be the next one to die. Luckily, nothing happened on their way back. Of course, Tasha kept glancing at Ayaka, who had been sitting beside Kai the whole time. She wanted to make sure that she didn't do anything to Kai. She felt relieved when she saw that Ayaka was too occupied with her research. In the military base, they were asked a few questions according to the incidents for the record. Kai only said what he thought the other students would say, so he didn't attract trouble. As for the details, he would leave them to Tasha. Kai finally went back to his home. He was tired after dealing with so many problems. They went to the stadium on Friday before starting their activities on Saturday. The incidents happened on Sunday, and they finally arrived home on Tuesday. Because of the incident, the principal gave the students special treatment by making the rest of the week a holiday for them. Of course, the students were thrilled. Most of them were enjoying their life because they got scared after hearing the incidents from the teachers. Even though they weren't involved in those incidents, it still made them shudder. After all, 4 students died in those 2 incidents. Kai and Tasha didn't rest this entire time. After they arrived home, they immediately started their own investigation. They knew that something big was about to happen soon, so they couldn't let their guard down. Chapter 54. Katsuragi Family. 2 days later, in the Katsuragi family's abode, many people gathered in one big room where they sat down respectfully on the floor, waiting for their leader to come. Not long after, the leader of the Katsuragi family came into the room. He was a middle-aged man with silver hair. He was wearing a white suit that complemented his hair. In his black eyes was a trace of killing intent that slowly spread in the room. He came to the room with an old man. He had black hair with a portion turned white. There was a sword mark stretching from under his right eye toward the right side of his lips and ending just above his chin. He also wore a white suit. Unlike the middle-aged man beside him, he had a warm expression on his face. However, it still couldn't hide his fierce aura, which instilled fear in them just by looking at him. They were respectively Katsuragi Akagi and Ikeda Kenzo. Even though Ikeda Kenzo was like Akagi's subordinate, their status in this meeting was equal. So, I heard that our plan in assassinating the South Prince, Inshof Tanas Georgi, was found out by the army. "Where are our assassins?" he asked his secretary. She was a beautiful woman, equipped with strength and intellect. She fixed her glasses a bit before answering. "We found out that our assassins had died. According to our spies, they didn't know how the first one died, but the second one died after getting tortured by the army. However, she didn't say anything about us. They found out that Tasha Carter managed to decode the clue from the South Prince before he died. A clue, yes. The South Prince left a message saying KTs before he died, which referred to young Lord Katsuragi Takaki. Back then, because of the rain, it became 1H, but somehow she was able to decode it, and this happened, she explained. Katsuragi Akagi closed his eyes for a bit, weighing something in his mind. Even though she's not a pure Japanese, she's indeed talented. How is the progress of my son and her? I heard he came back to this house yesterday night. This? His secretary looked at him with a complicated expression. She was a bit troubled in explaining this. Not because of Tashikata, but because of Katsuragi Takaki. What? We've lost contact with Kia from the front lines. And after several investigations, we found out that the young lord recalled him back to Kangi Stadium, where the practical class took place. So, why are you bringing up his name? Katsuragi Akagi asked with a relaxed tone, not caring about the person named Kia. He had brought a few hundred flying magical beasts to the practice test side and killed 2 students. After that, he died, she told him. What? Who ordered him to do that? Katsuragi Akagi flared up. The battle between the North and the South started years ago, while the real battle would be in months or years from now. It was just, they had yet to know the real plan, but because of George's case, the real battle needed to be rescheduled. And with this news, there was a chance for their big plan to be found out by their enemy. That was why he was so infuriated the moment he heard it. This would hurry up and say it. Katsuragi Akagi roared. The young lord was the one who asked him to bring those magical beasts. What he did. Katsuragi Akagi was baffled. He looked at his assistant. Why? Call that brat here. Yes. She immediately left the room. Meanwhile, Katsuragi Akagi glared at his secretary. Why would he do that? The young lord, he wanted to kill Kai Kata, Tashikata's younger brother. The secretary answered. What? Katsuragi Akagi opened his eyes wide. Even Ikeda Kenzo beside him frowned. He remembered the case where Kai and Tasha came to this place because Kai was targeted by someone who seemed to be from the Katsuragi family. At first, he thought it was a bluff, as their intention was somewhere else. So he had hidden this from Katsuragi Akagi since he wanted to have talented people from the younger generation like them to prosper, even if it meant to prosper in another base. Still, after hearing this report, he immediately frowned because he realized Kai and Tasha were right. They were indeed targeted, and it turned out that the one who targeted them was Katsuragi Takaki. He didn't know why Katsuragi Takaki wanted to kill Kai, but this was really troublesome. After all, in their big plan, they wanted to make Tashikata fall in love with Katsuragi Takaki. That way she would be able to help them in fighting the South's family. There were only 3 S-rank magicians, and if 2 of them, including him, were on the Katsuragi family side, it would be an easy win against the South. So, Katsuragi Akagi really wanted to possess Tashikata as his pawn. When they heard about how smart Tashikata was, her value suddenly rose in Katsuragi Akagi's eyes. However, the moment he heard that Katsuragi Takaki wanted to kill her younger brother Kai Kata, that value immediately shook. It might become higher or lower in just a moment after he heard Katsuragi Takaki's reason. Master. The secretary suddenly called Akagi again with a troubled expression. What? Do you have something more? Yes, she nodded. She took a deep breath to calm herself down first. Because of this matter, we decided to investigate the young lord's recent activity without Master's permission. How do you want to die? I will accept any punishment, but I need to inform Master of another incident, she said. What is it? Spill it. A few weeks ago, the young lord used the family's background to send a sniper to kill Kai Kata too. However, at that time he failed, and the sniper was killed. Because of that, Kai Kata started to become wary of us. After several more investigations, it turned out that they visited this island a week ago. It's just that we have yet to find out the reason they went back to Tokyo without doing anything. They've done quite a number of things here. I was the one who drove them away after all. Not that I can say it, Ikeda Kenzo harumphed inwardly. He suddenly remembered how troublesome the 2 were. If they truly became first-rate magicians, then even he would die under their blade. What? Katsuragi Akagi was thoroughly angered by the situation. The reports for the past few days were normal, as everything went according to plan. And when it suddenly went to his son, Katsuragi Takaki, There were so many troublesome situations. It was only a month after he transferred to Genesis Magical Academy, and he already made so many troubles. What should we do about this, Akagi Dono? Ikeda Kenzo finally opened his mouth. Katsuragi Akagi furrowed his eyebrows, trying to calm himself down while thinking about their next move. Are the South and the Army the only ones trying to investigate us? He asked that first. Since the South's family was too far away, almost everything should be delayed, and they could buy time against them. As for the Army, they were too powerless to go against them. No, there's one more family investigating us. Who? Gunma's Yajima family. According to our report, Yajima Haruko, the heiress of the Yajima family, is the student council president of Genesis Magical Academy. Because of the pressure from the South's family and the Army, she was forced to use her family influence too. She answered, It's only a small family from Gunma. They might be mighty in Gunma, but it's still too early for them to challenge us. Pressure them first and make them stop their investigation. That way, we can stop the Army's advance, as well as buy time from the South's family. We will then reschedule our plan to suit our current situation. I will try to talk with the Yajima family, Akagi Dono, Ikeda Kenzo said. Oh, if Kenzo Dono makes a move, then I will be grateful. Akagi nodded. By the way, what will you do to Kai Kata and Tasha Kata after this? Katsuragi Akagi was also perplexed as to what to do about them. Since they are wary against us, we won't approach them for the time being, until they start dropping their guard against us. I wonder if we should use women to seduce Kai Kata so he will forget about it. But if we send my daughters or granddaughters, I'm sure they will be warier of us, so we should wait and see first. If they can be persuaded to join this family, it will be okay. However, if they can't, then I will kill them first before our confrontation with the South's family. I understand why you want to kill them first. Ikeda Kenzo sighed. If Tasha Kata and Kai Kata were to join their side, it would be good. But if they join the South's family instead of theirs, then the balance will be broken, and they might lose this battle. That must be the reason why he wanted to eliminate Kai Kata and Tasha Kata first, before they clashed with South's family. It was a shame that two talented people of the younger generation were about to be killed, but he couldn't do anything. He had warned them about this, but they had yet to move out after so long. Of course, if he knew that the reason they couldn't go to the US base was that they had no money, who knew what kind of expression he would make? At that time, Chapter 55. Katsuragi Family and Assassins. Master, the young lord has arrived. The assistant that he sent a few minutes ago had come back together with Katsuragi Takaki. Father, why did you call me? Katsuragi Takaki asked. Why did I call you? You say, I think you know your mistake, you bastard. He glared at Katsuragi Takaki. I don't know what you are talking about. You don't know. Then how will you explain the thing where you asked a sniper to kill Kai Kata, or about you asking someone from the front lines to bring magical beasts to kill him? He looked at him, full of anger. Katsuragi. Takaki froze when he heard that all this time he never thought what he did was wrong. It was because he was too obsessed with Ayaka. As long as he could make Kai vanish from Ayaka's side, he didn't care about what method he had to use. What? Now that you've remembered, I expect you to explain this to me. If not, I will make sure you won't take a step out of this house again in the future. This was his fault. He wanted to kill me first, Katsuragi Takaki said. What? Why did he want to kill you? He kept clinging to my Ayaka. He even managed to brainwash her, making her keep her distance from me, Takaki said with a righteous tone. I was wrong to send you to that academy. I underestimated your obsession. I should have locked you up in the basement and torture you until you forget about her. Katsuragi Akagi was thoroughly angered by his son's statement. Even the others in the room shook their heads in disappointment. Usually, Katsuragi Takaki was a smart and calm guy. In short, he was a sort of perfect successor for the Katsuragi family. Although they knew about his so-called love for Ayaka, they didn't know it was to this extent. Back then, they were happy, since if he could get Ayaka, it would mean that they would have the support of Kudo Group, the #1 weapon maker in United Asia. Sadly, because of this, Ayaka, he went out of his mind. If only Kudo Group had another heiress, they would kill Ayaka and pair him up with the other one. What, I'm not in the wrong? This is pure love. Ayaka is my everything, Katsuragi Takaki roared. You bastard! Katsuragi Akagi couldn't hold back his anger anymore. He stood up and took out his sword. He swung his sword to Takaki before stopping right in front of his neck. If you weren't the only A-rank magician out of all my sons and daughters, I would have killed you right this instant. He released a boundless killing intent through his eyes, wanting to send it all to his own son. Family head, family head, family head, please appease your anger. The people around him immediately tried to calm him down. They were afraid that Katsuragi Akagi would kill him out of anger. The reason was simple. It was like they said, Katsuragi Takaki was the only A-rank magician in the younger generation. He was also the smartest. If Ayaka wasn't in the picture, he should be able to be reformed over time, even if they needed to kill Ayaka. As long as they removed Ayaka, he wouldn't get into any more trouble. Then they would just make him impregnate a lot of women to make heirs. That way, they wouldn't have any trouble regarding the continuation of the Katsuragi family after that. Sadly, the scene didn't stop there, as loud footsteps could be heard from outside. Their doors were opened. Not good. Suddenly, a woman came into the room. She looked like she had rushed to this room with all her strength. However, when she saw that Katsuragi Takaki was inside the room, she froze as she didn't know what to do with this situation. What, spill it out now? Katsuragi Akagi roared, stomping the ground. He looked at her while releasing his magic power. He was rapidly running out of patience. This. She looked at Katsuragi Takaki, who was still in the room. She also had been briefed on the situation, and knew that the family head was angry about this problem. So she was afraid that this situation might go out of control. If you don't say anything in 1 second, I will kill you right now. Katsuragi Akagi released his killing intent her way. Hi. She didn't care anymore. We found out that the young lord dispatched assassins that were stationed in Chiba to kill Kai Kata, and I assume they've arrived in his position by now, said A.N. Chiba is a prefecture right beside Tokyo. What did you say? Katsuragi Akagi raised his hand in anger and punched his own son in the face. Katsuragi Takaki was blown away by the punch and crashed onto the wall 20 meters behind him since it was a big room. He spat blood before losing consciousness. With just that fist, he managed to break Takaki's jaw. So, this situation will be the latter, huh? Such a shame to see such talented magicians from the younger generation die just like that. Ikeda Kenzo sighed. We will reschedule everything right now. Tighten our defense to make sure no one can find anything in a short time. Recall all of our men in the Kanto region and station them in Tokyo. As for the rest of our people here, all of you will immediately prepare our people. AN, Kanto region encompasses 7 prefectures: Gunma, Tochigi, Ibaraki, Saitama, Tokyo, Chiba, and Kanagawa. Tashikata won't know who tried to kill him for the time being, considering our assassin's power. Within that time, we will prepare our force and kill Tashikata before she finds out and joins the South's family. I was thinking about having her suppress them, since we would have 2 S-rank magicians in our rank, but this is useless now. We will move to the backup plan and go to war after we kill her. Prepare the space teleportation prevention device. He then pointed his finger at Katsuragi Takaki, and lock him up in the basement. I don't want to see him. Yes, all of them nodded. In Tokyo, 100 meters away from the Carter family's house, 2 people met on the top of a building. The first one was a male with big headphones circling in his neck. He wore a white shirt coupled with a blue jacket, looking quite stylish. On the other hand, the one in front of him was a woman in her peak development. She wore a simple sweater with jeans. If only she were a bit more expressive, numerous men would definitely be entranced by her. They were Kai Kata and Shirotsuka Sanae. I managed to scoop up a little information because of the confusion. I bet they never expected something like this, so it would be too late for them to reinforce their defense. Well, this is also thanks to the South's family, the army, as well as the Yajima family. Without them making a ruckus to the Katsuragi family, I wouldn't have been able to get all this information. The first information is about Ikeda Kenzo. I've confirmed that he really is colluding with the Katsuragi family. And the second information is about Katsuragi Takaki. A few minutes ago, I just got information about him asking for a leave for a week or so. I don't know why though. Well, it seems that they're going to tighten their defense after this, so I'm a bit unsure if I'll be able to get any information after this. I hope the South's family can make enough trouble for them so I can get an opening. Anyway, I have not compiled the details, and I will wait until I get more information, Sanai said. All right, I'll make. Just as Kai was about to say something, he noticed something wrong and made a serious expression. He murmured, 9, no, 10. Shirotsuka Sanae was confused. More assassins, he sighed. We're around my house, but according to their movements, it seems that they're planning to attack me instead of my parents. Shirotsuka Sanae also sighed when she heard that. Why do troubles keep coming to us? I want to know the reason as well. Kai shook his head. I'll help you with this, but you'll be the bait to make it easier. Oi, you want to use your boss? You're going to use your student to bait 10 assassins. Kai looked at her with a pitiful face. What boss? You did not hire me or anything. Our agreement is only for my best friend's contact. As for being a student, you're just one of the students in my current class. We don't share any sentiment like I do with my best friend or you with your childhood friend, so don't push your luck. Anyway, since they're coming for you, you'll be the bait, since it will be easier for me to help you that way. Kai sighed. So, are we gonna act like we're parting here? But seeing a student and a teacher in this place alone is strange, you know. Well, they're still 1 kilometer from us though. Even though they were still far away, Kai was sure that they were assassins. The reason was simple. There was no way 10 people would come toward his position at such high speed while jumping through the roofs. Since they haven't come yet, then we should move to another location first, Sanai suggested. He nodded. They immediately came down and went to a family restaurant. Shirotsuka Sanae suddenly took out a paper while writing some kind of class homework and handed the paper to him. They were acting as though he was a student receiving a private lesson from his teacher because of his grade before going back. After this, Shirotsuka Sanae would go around the area and ambush the assassins the moment they came out. Chapter 56. Assassins. An hour later, a group of assassins of 10 women had been watching Kai Kata and Shirotsuka Sanae for a while. One of them was a sniper. Pointing her weapon toward Kai, she sighed. When will they come back? We won't be able to kill him without leaving any witnesses if this keeps on. Idiot, you're always so impatient. You won't be able to go far if you can't be patient. Another assassin said. I know, this is just my rambling, she pouted. Still, why would a teacher and a student meet in a family restaurant, even though school's off? Don't tell me this is the legendary forbidden relationship. You really are an idiot. That term is no longer known now since it's normal for males to have multiple wives nowadays. Besides, you can watch them studying, right? The teacher must be teaching him because of his grade. Can't we just kill both of them? Don't underestimate a teacher from the magical academy. They're veterans in the front lines, and if we're not careful, we might lose our lives in their hands. Especially seeing how young she is, there are 2 possibilities. She might have been banned from the front lines because of her low-level prowess, or she has her own circumstances despite being powerful since the academy wants her. I assume it's the latter, since there was no way the academy would accept her if she were weak. Shh, we can only wait then. The sniper sighed. She was already lucky since she had a friend to talk to for the time being. She tried to observe the other assassins who were close to the restaurant. Sadly, none of them decided to enter the restaurant to observe him because they knew about his sharp hearing. They were afraid they would be blown out if he heard them. Of course, they did not know the extent of his hearing, so they just stationed themselves nearby. Meanwhile, in the restaurant, Kai was leisurely talking with Shirotsuka Sanae after confirming that none of the assassins came into the restaurant. This way, they really looked like they were talking about studies. Little did they know, Kai and Sanae were discussing their plan. It seems that they're talking about you. They said, you're a veteran with special circumstances who retired from the front lines and became a teacher because of it. Assassins nowadays are extraordinary, aren't they? They know your circumstances just by observing you for a while. I thought they would have to research your background first before they could know, Kai casually mentioned. However, Shirotsuka Sanae glared at him. You better not say anything related to it. Sorry, I just wanted to lighten the mood. Maybe I'm a bit too accustomed to Ayaka, since she would most likely panic in this situation, and I would need to loosen her up. The way you said it is somehow lewd. What do you mean, loosen her up? Do you think this is an R18 novel? Why are you always talking about things like that? Previously, you talked about pre-N and the like, and now you're talking about R118 novels. Are you so frustrated to even tease your student? Kai twitched his eyebrows. Heh. Do you think you're a man? I bet you're still a virgin. Do you want your teacher to teach you about this? Sanai made a smug face. So you're not one teacher? Of course I'm not. So, who is it? You're not going to say it was with a magical beast, are you? Come on, why am I even following this talk of yours? Kai sighed. I've done it, and I'm not obligated to tell you, Sanai said with a poker face. The way you change your expression from a smug face to a poker face is suspicious. I'll ask Michelle about this. Maybe your best friend knows about it. Kai tried to tease her this time. Wait, don't. Sanai exclaimed in surprise. With just that expression alone, he already had his answer. Anyway, enough with this dirty talk. Let's come up with a plan since they don't dare to come inside the restaurant. Well, they might already know about my hearing, so that's good. From my observation, there are 10 of them. 8 of them are nearby. I'm too tired to even say their position since we're going to lure them out later. The last 2 are at the top of the tower 200 meters from us. One of them is a sniper and the other one seems to be protecting her. I'm not sure about it though, since she might come to me the moment I go home. Anyway, you're going to kill the sniper first. After that, I'll buy time by saying some random bullshit later. As soon as you finish killing the sniper, you'll ambush them first. Remember to take as many as possible in that ambush. After that, I'll immediately use my skill, the one you said I need to warn you before using it. We'll then kill 1 or 2 more in the chaos. That way, we'll only have less than 5 to take care of. I'm sure we'll be able to kill them all, but I don't know your ability, so I'm not too sure about this. Are you underestimating me? She narrowed her eyes. You don't need to worry about my ability. Even in a frontal fight, I still can kill 5 B-rank elite magicians, even though I'm only a C-rank magician. So don't underestimate me, you brat. I'm relieved to hear that. Kai nodded. Sanai used her left hand to support her head while looking at Kai. She waved her hand up and down. Come here, I need to say something to you. Kai looked at her in confusion. He rose from his seat and came closer to her. He thought she was going to whisper something to him. It was at this moment that she betrayed his trust. She suddenly hit his head and let his head hit the table. Kai glared at her. What are you doing? I'm still your teacher, so call me teacher or something, not you. This is only to warn you, Sanai said. You only need to say it to me. There's no need to hit me like that. My instinct almost reacted and I almost attacked you, Kai complained. As I said, this is only a warning, but maybe I should teach you who's stronger between us, Sanai said with a smug face. I'm fine with it, is what I want to say. But our situation isn't supportive of that, he said while closing his eyes. Anyway, that's the plan. Is there anything you want to add, teacher? Well, if I want to add something, I just want to ask, why don't you call your sister? Sanai asked nonchalantly. I want to, but we're acting separately right now. And since you're here, I can just rely on you while she makes money, Kai told her. Money. Sanai furrowed her eyebrows. Yes, I'm planning to send my parents to the US base and let Michelle take care of them while my sister and I deal with this problem. I see. You don't want them to be caught in this mess, huh? Then why don't you ask for money from that Kudo Ayaka? Although the money required for the base transfer is quite a lot, it's just pocket change for her. Ayaka, huh? I've thought about it. But Ayaka and I are only friends, so I don't think I'll ask for money from her. I consider it a last resort though. Whether I'll sell myself to Kudo Group or not will depend on your investigation, teacher. You mean time? Kai nodded with a serious expression. How much time do you think you have to raise money? A month. Kai gave his calculation. All right, after killing these assassins, I'll try to investigate it. Since it's only about time and not their exact plan, I should be able to get something in 3 to 5 days, Sanai estimated. Yes, I'm counting on you, teacher. Kai bowed his head to show his thanks. Sanai nodded. I think we've already made them wait long enough. Let's go. Yeah, the plan looked perfect, but unbeknownst to him, another danger was coming toward him. There were people coming toward him in another way that he couldn't catch with his ears. After all, 2 cars were coming their way. Each car had 5 people in it. Kai was walking toward his house as though nothing happened. This action lowered the assassin's guard as they thought Kai had yet to realize they were tailing him. When he was 500 meters from his house, he stopped. He turned back and said, "Who are you people?" Two women suddenly appeared in front of him. "Under our young lord's order, we're here to kill you." Katsuragi Takaki, huh? "So 9 of you are going to kill me?" "No, 10. Kai looked at the assassins. "As expected of you. We've heard about your extraordinary hearing, but to think you could hear that far away," she said with a smile. "You jest. My limit is only a few hundred meters. I thought you were going for my teacher, as all of you might be her former enemies. But to think I draw such bad luck, sigh. Fufu, you really are capable like our young lord, interested in losing your virginity before dying. I mean, it will be good if you manage to impregnate one of us, since the child might be born with your extraordinary hearing." She looked at Kai with contempt. She wasn't joking though, since a hearing like Kai's would be regarded highly in the family, and if their children were to have that ability, they might elevate their status together with their mother. Chapter 57. Another group, on the top of the building, 100 meters from Kai's position. Shirotsuka Sanae had been following the sniper this entire time. Luckily, the one who was previously guarding her had gone away to go after Kai, which made her job easier. As long as she could sneakily approach her, then she would be able to kill her swiftly. She took out her star knives, ready to throw them to the sniper. Sanae chose to wait until the sniper touched the trigger, because at that time, the sniper would be focused on the trigger instead of her. 1 minute, 2 minutes, she was waiting. She knew they didn't have much time, but if she wanted to take care of the sniper without anyone noticing, this was the only way. It was at this time that Shirotsuka Sanae found an opening. The sniper turned on her laser and pointed it at Kai's chest. She threw one of her star knives upward, letting it make a parabolic movement before piercing the sniper's head. The sniper felt the pain on her head, and she died. Shirotsuka Sanae didn't say anything as she saw a communication device. She didn't want to be found out anyway. She then jumped out of the building before using her wind magic to reduce her falling speed. After she descended, she immediately snuck around the area to get as close as possible. Meanwhile, Kai's situation, enough with the dirty joke, I'm sick of it. Kai sighed. No, I'm not joking with you. If our children have such a useful ability, then our status will be elevated in the family, even if it means we're going to have to raise the child alone, she said. Kai looked at her and noticed that she wasn't lying. It made him wonder what kind of life they had gone through in the Katsuragi family. But that was all. He never cared about them anyway, since they were planning to kill him. Unfortunately, there's no way I'll be interested, Kai said while closing his eyes. So, who's going to kill me? I see. She was talking to Kai because she underestimated Kai's power since he was only a student, classified as a D-rank magician. Usually, she and her team would swiftly kill their targets, but she became a bit interested in his extraordinary hearing. She decided to talk for a bit, since she thought Kai wouldn't be able to escape anyway. Well, your life is already gone anyway, she sighed while pointing her finger at the position of her heart. She was telling him to check his heart. When he looked down, there was a red dot right on his chest. So, the sniper is the one who'll kill me. He looked at the building 100 meters away from him. As expected of you, to think you can even spot her position. She smiled. If I had known about this, I would have asked my teacher to protect me. Kai sighed. Fufu. Well then, it's regrettable, but I'll have you die here. She raised her hand as the signal to shoot him. But after a few seconds, Kai was still standing without any magic bullets piercing his heart. What? Mira, hurry up and shoot him, she said to the sniper through the communication device on her ears. Well, I've asked her to protect me though. My teacher, that is, Kai revealed with a smile. They suddenly realized what was going on. They took out their weapons, but it was too late. Shirotsuka Sanae appeared behind them and threw her star knives. To think you were talking about this. Do you want to lose your virginity that much? Sanae even had time to tease him. It just showed how easy the situation was for them at the moment. Because of this ambush, they couldn't react fast enough to dodge the attack. Shirotsuka Sanae chose the place where she could target as many as possible, and she managed to kill 3 of them. She wanted to kill another 1 or 2, but they were too far apart and would be able to dodge her before the star knives arrived. Snake 2 and Snake 3 will hinder her while the rest will kill. Ding! Before the leader could finish relaying her orders, a high-pitched sound reverberated in her ears. The pain it brought to their hearing really wasn't something to be underestimated. Kai had used small noise-canceling magic circles for his ears, while Shirotsuka Sanae used the wind to transfer the vibrations upward, so she only heard a little bit of that sound. Kai took out both of his swords while Shirotsuka Sanae threw both of her star knives. Kai jumped forward and cut through the necks of two assassins without any mercy whatsoever. Shirotsuka Sanae was also the same as her star knives impaled two assassins' heads. In that instant, there were only 2 assassins left from the original 10. Both Kai and Sanae didn't say anything. Instead, they immediately went to their respective assassins, who had slightly recovered. Kai swung his sword toward the leader. "Don't underestimate me." The leader clenched her sword to block Kai's sword. They were clashing swords for numerous rounds, but because her movements were a bit dull as a residue effect of Kai's magic, Kai eventually suppressed her by attacking her hand. That was holding the sword. He had no mercy for her, even though they were throwing dirty jokes just now. Losing her sword, Kai immediately pierced her heart with his sword. She spat out blood as she walked back and leaned on a wall. She soon fell. It seems your ability can really discern the sounds that are a bit more special than the rest, she said as she stretched her hands toward Kai. Her face was full of regret. That hand slowly fell to the ground as she died. "What do you mean?" Kai murmured as she looked at the assassin leader who had died. He suddenly heard "bam" from 200 meters away. He immediately realized what she meant. He could realize he was targeted because they came in a special way through the roof. If they came while camouflaging as normal people and didn't communicate anything special, his brain would automatically regard them as common folks. Unless he specifically scouted with his ears, he wouldn't know. He immediately jumped toward Shirotsuka Sanae to save her, as she couldn't go down just now because he heard that another group was coming and she was the main fighter. Bang! Shirotsuka Sanae turned her body the moment she heard that she was surprised that there was another sniper. But more importantly, she noticed that Kai took a bullet on his stomach area. "Are you all are?" Before she could even finish, a woman appeared and swung a giant sword toward them. Even though he was in pain, Kai immediately swung his sword to block her giant sword. Still, because of the momentum, he couldn't win in strength. Because of this, he and Sanae were blown away to the wall. There was suddenly another group of assassins. All of them appeared in front of him and made a magic circle. Each of them shot a skill: firebolt, water vortex, water slicer. They were raining down their skills toward Kai and Sanae. Boom. The dust on the area covered up Kai and Sanae after they were blown up by magic. Did we get them? That should be the case. But to think they managed to kill the entire snake group. The snake group is just a bunch of lowly slaves. They can't be compared to our falcon group. It was at this moment that they suddenly saw 2 star knives coming toward them from their left and right. The 2 star knives managed to kill 1 assassin respectively, but they were then blocked by the second assassin. All the assassins immediately pointed their weapons toward the smoke and saw a green magic circle. Behind that circle, Kai and Sanae seemed to be fine. At the last moment, Kai managed to activate his oscillation shield and blocked all of their skills. If it weren't because of Kai, they might have died in that barrage of attack. Sanae wanted to say something, but noticing their situation, she didn't say anything and immediately threw her star knives. There were 8 of them left, while one of them was a sniper far away from their position. "Are you all right?" "Yes, for the time being. I noticed the previous group because they ran through the roof of buildings, so it was easy to pick them out. But to think that these people camouflaged as normal people, I truly missed them until the last moment," Kai said while trying to regain his breathing rhythm. Luckily, it didn't hit any of his vitals, so he only needed to endure it for a while. He just hoped that he wouldn't die because of blood loss. "Don't compare us to that group of slaves. Still, since you've killed 2 of us, I'll make sure both of you die painfully and brutally," the assassin said. "I'll take on the 5 on the right while you take on the 2 on the left, as well as watch out for their sniper," Sanae said. At the very least, she wanted to take the pressure off of Kai. But if she took more than 5, the fight might be unbearably long, and it would be bad for Kai. "Understood." Kai nodded as he looked at the assassins. He took a deep breath as wild instinct slowly took over him. He wanted to finish this battle as soon as possible. He then jumped forward with both of his swords. Chapter 58, Killing the Assassins. Because of the wound, Kai was forced to end the battle as soon as possible. Because of that, he immediately let out his wild instinct and jumped forward. His opponents were a wind magician specialized in magic and a fire magician with a long sword. They had no particular display. They wore a black robe and a mask, so Kai could only see their hair color, which was brown and black respectively. "Kuro, hold him back. I'll finish him with my magic," the wind assassin said to the fire assassin. The fire assassin nodded and moved to the front, blocking Kai's way. Kai simply swung both of his swords down, which was received with a sword. However, Kai immediately showed his prowess at this time. Kate, the fire assassin, suddenly fell to her knees when she received Kai's attack. What is this strength? How can he have this much power when he's injured like that? Wind bullet. The wind assassin immediately changed her skill as soon as she saw her comrade suppressed by Kai. From a magic circle, a small whirlwind appeared before changing its form into a bullet. It then flew toward Kai. Kai waved one of his swords and destroyed that wind bullet. Oria. Because Kai took one of his swords from her, the fire assassin immediately raised once again. "Sorry, I was careless. I never thought he would still have that much power." "Just focus on delaying him. He'll die soon," the wind magician simply told. "All right." The fire assassin charged once again with her sword. Ha! Kai clashed with her for so many rounds, while the wind magician seemed to be preparing big magic to kill him. He wanted to stop her, but it was to no avail since the fire magician managed to hold him back, albeit barely. Clang. Their swords kept clashing as Kai slowly gained the upper hand in the fight. Kai knew he had to research some offensive magic. He previously had no need for this, since he could easily call his sister or Ayaka. Sadly, at a time like this, his sister was too busy, and he wasn't that close to Ayaka. He just kept striking his sword against the assassin, trying to wound her as much as possible. Wind tornado, blaze powder. The wind tornado made by the magician combined with the spark of fire from the flame magician. They fused and made a powerful flame tornado, oscillation shield. Kai used his sound shield to block this blazing tornado, but the force within it was so powerful that it managed to push him back to the wall even with his strength. On the contrary, the assassins were shocked. "How can he hold the force from my wind tornado? I spent a minute just to compress my wind magic," the wind assassin snarled. "Gah." Despite her complaint, Kai spat a mouthful of blood. His face became a bit pale. "Just keep using it." The flame assassin saw Kai spat out blood and knew it would be soon. At the same time, the sniper that was standing a few hundred meters away shot another bullet. She even said, Hee, good job you two, but I'll still be the one to get the kill." Of course, this didn't escape Kai's ears. He let go of one of his swords and raised his hand to his 9 o'clock. Oscillation shield. The assassin was using a magic sniper with magic bullets. If this were on the battlefield, the sniper could take an A-rank magical beast down if the magical beast didn't protect itself. Even with Kai's oscillation shield, this bullet managed to pierce the barrier and his palm. This wasn't because the oscillation shield was useless though. It was just because the bullet's speed was too fast, not giving enough time for his shield to reduce the piercing power of the bullet. Kai endured the pain on his palm as he could see through the hole in his palm. "That BTH wanted to steal our kill. We need to kill him," the fire magician shouted. Her friend nodded and made another magic circle. She was trying to compress something. Kai knew his situation wasn't good, as he really needed to defeat these two assassins in front of him. First, he flicked his finger. Lullaby. Ding. The high-pitched sound echoed through everyone's ears in this battle. The magic circle broke, and Kai immediately released his oscillation shield as he rushed to the wind assassin with only one sword in his hand. Because of the ringing in her ears, the flame assassin, who was supposed to be the vanguard, couldn't catch up to Kai's movements. It was the same for the wind assassin. As before she knew it, Kai already appeared in front of her. Kai used a flashbang as the model of this magic, but just without the blindness. Of course, he toned it down a little bit, just enough to not heavily injure the people beside him, specifically his comrade. However, making his enemies lose focus in a second or so was already good enough for him, as he could do this. Kai swung his sword right at her neck and sent her head flying. It was a swift and ruthless strike, as blood had yet to spurt in almost a second. After the blood spurt from her body, Kai was immediately rained down by her blood. The flame magician, who realized that her comrade was killed, was immediately infuriated. These two were special. Other assassins might not care that much about their comrades, but these two were friends. And to see her friend die because of her carelessness, she immediately swung her sword toward him with rage. Die. Sadly, if emotions alone could defeat strength, Kai wouldn't be able to defeat Ayaka or the others. Bam. He put all of his strength on this swing. The clash was brief as he finally locked her down again. Just like the previous situation, Kai wanted to pin her down to the ground. But he noticed something. He suddenly heard the sound of a gun muzzle a few hundred meters away from him. He knew it was from the sniper, and she would shoot anytime soon. Kai suddenly released his sword and let her win in this exchange. He then moved to the side to avoid her sword. Bam! It sounded like a blast explosion in his ears, even though the sniper already used a silencer. The assassin wanted to swing again, but Kai grabbed her wrist. He shifted his body and changed his center of gravity before throwing her into the air. In an instant, he could see a hole in her head. The bullet pierced her skull and landed on the ground. Kai spat another mouthful of blood as his feet were already so weak, and his face became white. Even so, Kai released the last surge of energy he had, and threw his sword before he made a few more steps and hid behind a house to hide from. The sniper, meanwhile, on Shirotsuka Sanai's side. They also started fighting when Kai and the two assassins began. Shirotsuka Sanai immediately threw her star knives toward the 5 assassins. Her opponent had 3 vanguards and 2 supports. Sanai immediately targeted the support first, as they would be annoying. 2 of the vanguards immediately appeared beside the supports and knocked her star knives away with their daggers. Shirotsuka Sanai only clasped her hand as magic circles appeared on her star knives. The magic circles gave her star knives a boost to strike the assassins again. Despite being caught off guard by that for a moment, the assassins immediately reacted and knocked the star knives away once again. The last vanguard, who seemed to be the leader of this group, finally opened her mouth again. You two protect them as I handle this woman by myself. When there's a chance, kill her with the skill. The assassin leader was using brass knuckles. Her warrior aura, spiked as killing intent, started emanating from her eyes. Her knuckles were suddenly covered with fire as she rushed forward. Shirotsuka Sanai kept channeling her magic to the strings that were attached to her star knives, and made her star knives continuously attack the assassins. As for the person in front of her, the moment she charged at her and threw a fist, Shirotsuka Sanai did the same and covered her fists with the wind. She threw a fist against the assassin's fist. Just before their fists collided, the wind immediately scattered the flame, and both of their fists clashed. However, the assassin leader had the advantage because of her knuckles. The spikes on her knuckle immediately pierced Shirotsuka Sanai's hand. She smirked as she thought this woman was foolish, because she challenged her knuckle with her bare fist. Sadly, contrary to her expectation, Shirotsuka Sanai didn't scream at all. Even with blood flowing from her fist, her expression remained unchanged. When the assassin thought Sanai would pull back her fist while screaming, Shirotsuka Sanai did something she truly didn't expect. A magic circle appeared on her back as the magic circle channeled a very strong torrential wind. The wind then moved toward her fist and boosted her power. Enduring the pain in her fist, Shirotsuka Sanai let out everything from her body to her fist and pushed that fist back. The assassin was surprised she got pushed back in this situation, and when she noticed the surge of that wind that was capable of increasing Shirotsuka Sanai's power, she muttered in realization. Not good. Shirotsuka Sanai used that wind to push her fist forward and blew the assassin's hand away. She didn't stop there as she pushed her fist once more and struck the assassin right on the face. Chapter 59. Hospital. Shirotsuka Sanai finally struck the assassin on the face and blew her toward the wall. Bam! The dust from the crash rose and covered the assassin leader. The assassins were surprised by how Shirotsuka Sanai didn't care about her own hand and chose to strike their leader. The smoke scattered away in a second, and they could see their leader in bad condition. Her mask was completely shattered and fell to the ground. It showed her crystal pink eyes as well as a broken nose. Her face was a bit destroyed after that strike, and blood covered her face. Kill her. She immediately gave orders out of rage while struggling to come out from the wall. The others made a complicated expression, but they still proceeded with her order. Both of them immediately made a magic circle. They did the same thing the wind magician that Kai fought did. They stored their magic and released it in one go. This technique was very popular in United Asia, especially for attackers, as it would give them a far more powerful skill than their usual. Sadly, Kai couldn't use this, as he didn't have any magic that was compatible with this technique. Part of it was because this technique was only for the mainstream elements such as fire, water, and so on. It wasn't compatible with elements like Ikeda Kenzo's light magic, Tashikata's space magic, or Kai's sound magic, as they couldn't compress light, space, or sound. However, with this technique, the soldiers in the front lines could advance more swiftly, and this exact technique was used to attack Shirotsuka Sanae, Ice Dragonfly, Wind Typhoon. Both supports immediately used their skills. The right one made a blue magic circle from which appeared a blue dragon made of ice. The left one made a green magic circle and summoned a wind tornado that was bouncing like a snake on the ground. The skills were coming from Sanae's right and left. As she wanted to jump to avoid these skills, a high-pitched sound pierced her ears. Cage. All of the assassins covered their ears. The two skills that were coming toward her immediately shattered into pieces because they lost control of their magic. Only Shirotsuka Sanae recognized this sound. She bit her lips until it was bleeding to endure the excruciating pain. She forced herself to channel her magic and boosted her star knives again. Both of her star knives flew toward the support assassins and impaled both of their heads. That bastard. Sanae glanced at Kai a little bit and noticed his bad situation and realized that he chose to use this perfectly as both of them were under attack. After killing the two assassins, Shirotsuka Sanae immediately charged at the rest of the attackers as she moved her star knives toward them. They endured the pain in their ears and raised their weapons. They deflected both of her star knives with their daggers and glanced at their fallen teammates. Shirotsuka Sanae just ignored the fact that they deflected her star knives, as she could pull them back with the strings that were attached to them. Shirotsuka Sanae moved toward the assassin leader that had finally come out of the wall. You, BG. The assassin threw a fist toward her. Shirotsuka Sanae appeared to be throwing her fist again. However, this time, just before the fist collided, Shirotsuka Sanae jumped upward. She waved her hands and controlled the strings. The strings made a few loops in the air before falling to the assassin leader. Shirotsuka Sanae immediately tightened it and tied the assassin leader. The other two immediately stepped forward to save their leader. At this particular time, Shirotsuka Sanae saw a sword coming from her right. The sword flew at high speed and stabbed one of them on the head. It was Kai's sword. Seeing that, she didn't hesitate for even a moment. A magic circle appeared beneath her feet. She raised her foot to the air as though she was kicking a football up high, and a wind pressure appeared on her foot. The wind pressure suddenly turned into a wind blade and flew toward the assassin leader. It split the assassin leader into two, together with her strings. The last assassin on the scene used this chance to attack Shirotsuka Sanae. After all, Shirotsuka Sanae had lost both of her star knives the moment she cut her leader as well as the strings. She charged at her as her dagger started sparking with lightning. Die, Shirotsuka. Sanae only snorted. No, you die. What ah? Just when she started swinging her dagger, her head was impaled by two star knives. You're assassins that have been stationed around here. Sadly, you've never been to a real battlefield where you'll die if you don't think one or two moves ahead, Shirotsuka Sanae said. The difference in experience was too far. Because of the loss of her best friend, Shirotsuka Sanae was forced to think a few moves ahead so she wouldn't die in battle. It was usually her friend's job, but thankfully, she accumulated enough experience in this. With that, she managed to kill the assassins pretty easily. She looked at the tallest tower a few hundred meters away, warning the sniper, if she dared to come, then she would also kill her. However, seeing her comrades already die, she could do nothing other than retreat. Sanae then waved her hands and retrieved both Kai's swords so they didn't leave any trace. She then followed Kai's trail and found him leaning on a wall. His face was pale as he had lost too much blood. She shook her head helplessly. "You idiot! I'm sure you could have gotten away from the assassins if you hadn't saved me from that bullet. And you even provided me support with that skill and your sword even in your condition. I'll help you a bit longer." She carried Kai on her back and went to the hospital. A few hours later, Tasha Carter finally came to the hospital. She came out of the pink magic circle and startled the receptionist. She slapped the table and said, "Where is the room for Kai Carter? Hi." The nurse was scared as she never expected this. "Hurry up, what? Do you want to know? I'm Tasha Carter, his sister. Hurry up and say it. If not, I'll teleport you a kilometer in the air and let you die." Tasha roared at the receptionist with killing intent. Room 2002. The receptionist immediately checked and gave her the information. Her hands were still shaking and her feet were weak. After giving that information and seeing Tasha going toward the room, she immediately fell to her seat and had a hard time calming down. It was only after a few minutes that she finally managed to calm down and inform the person in charge of the hospital about this. Of course, with Tasha Carter's background, they could only let her do as she wished. Tasha was rushing toward this place after she was informed of this by her parents. She was raising money with a certain company in Hiroshima, as they had a partnership in the past. Upon hearing this news, she instantly booked a plane ticket and rushed to this place. At first, she wanted to use her space magic to rush here, but she had several problems and couldn't do it. When she arrived at the room, her mother immediately stopped her from rampaging. After all, it was already late at night. "Come here," she dragged her with absolute authority. "Don't worry about Kai, he's resting at the moment, and I've talked to him for a while before this. Mother." Even though her mother looked like a normal mother, she still felt chills when she was like this. She knew her mother was very angry. She even unconsciously talked politely. She dragged her to the roof and asked, "So, what is this all about? Have you and Kai hid something from us?" I. Tasha looked away, feeling guilty about this. She looked left and right for a while before sighing. "There's a problem with the Katsuragi family in the north. Kai and I want to send you guys to Michelle's family." She looked down. They had been protecting their parents as far as they could remember. It all started when her power bloomed and numerous people tried to harm their family. Kai was the one who seemed to be accustomed to fighting, of course, because of Michelle. And under him, she started practicing and protecting their parents. She decided to do that because she felt too indebted since they even picked her, an orphan, up out of nowhere. Her mother suddenly hugged her. "Silly child. You don't need to do this for us. We've become your burden this whole time. Mom, you know about it. If you're asking about whether I know about how you and Kai have been protecting your father and me for almost a decade, then both of us know about it. It's pretty obvious, since both of you often came home with bruises and wounds. If you think both of us could be fooled just because both of you said you fell, then you need to come again in another decade. Sadly, even with us knowing it, we couldn't do a single thing to help you since your father and I aren't qualified for the front lines because of our weak power. Don't you worry, child. As long as you and Kai are all right, we don't care whether we are alive or dead, so you don't need to do all this for us," her mother said, full of emotion. Tasha also started crying. "Mom." Chapter 60, Mom. Tasha started crying. "It must have been hard for you too. I'm sorry. Mom is too useless. No. Kai and I only want you two to live happily with us. We know that you've sacrificed so many things for us with or without us knowing. We're aware of that. That's why we're doing this. There's never a single time we thought that both you and Dad are burdens." Tasha hugged her tightly. Ayaka Carter also started letting out tears. "Silly child. Please never say that you don't care about your life. You've always said that you're happy with this life of a normal family and eagerly waiting for grandchildren. So, please don't say that. We, your children, want you to live happily with us." "All right, Mom is wrong. Please don't cry, my child." She closed her eyes as her face was already full of tears. These weren't tears of sorrow. Instead, these tears were full of happiness. "Can you tell me what happened?" Tasha took a minute to calm down. She looked down. "It was initially not our problem, but because of a certain thing, it became our problem. I'll explain it first. You know about Kudo Ayaka, right?" "Yeah, she's such a sensible child. She's even sleeping in the room down below. Well, I've informed her family, so they should be taking her back soon. She nodded. Tasha didn't have the energy to react to this. Part of it was because she felt guilty, as she was the last one that came here. Then, how about the Katsuragi family? The #1 medicine family I know, she answered again. Tasha nodded. This happened when Kai met Katsuragi Takaki, the successor of the Katsuragi family, in Genesis Magical Academy. Because of various incidents, Kai was paired up with Kudo Ayaka for the practice match, and Katsuragi Takaki's appearance seemed to be related to Kudo Ayaka, but it might also not be related to her. Related, but not related. Ayaka Kata tilted her head. Confused, Tasha simply shook her head. Kai and I also don't understand about this. He seems to be targeting her, but it's certainly not her alone. Because Kai couldn't change his partner, he was stuck with Kudo Ayaka for the rest of the year. However, Katsuragi Takaki seemed to be targeting Kai when he knew he couldn't approach her or something along the line. Not long after that was the first assault. He sent a sniper to kill Kai, but the details were unknown as we couldn't get any information out of him. Our lives became normal again, until the practice test started. He wanted to target Kai once again, and sent his subordinate to bring a horde of magical beasts to his location. Luckily, because of his quick-witted action, he managed to escape. After that, there was an incident with the South Prince, Inshof Tanas Georgi. He was killed by Katsuragi Takaki too. No, maybe his assassins. What even a person like me knows about the South Prince? Isn't this a big problem since the South's family has ruled Kishu for a few generations? Yeah, that's why this has become a big problem, even though we don't want it. We're still not clear about their intention, so we're planning to send you and Dad to Michelle's family. With this, we can slowly watch as the situation unfolds. And we can even retreat to the US base at a later date if the situation becomes out of hand, Tasha explained. I see. Anything else? Well, the assassins that killed the South Prince went to kill Kai, but they failed because of Kai's strength, Tasha said proudly. Anyway, there will be a big clash between the Katsuragi family and the South's family. The Katsuragi family is backed by the Ikeda family, specifically Ikeda Kenzo, one of the S-rank magicians. Meanwhile, the army and Gunma's Yajima family are helping the South's family with this, so the situation might become a bit dangerous sooner or later. Ayaka Kata thought for a bit before saying, well, Mom and Dad also have savings, but they're not enough for us to fly to the US base, since our family isn't wealthy like Michelle's family. Yeah, that's why I'm raising money for both of you. She knew they had become a burden for their son and daughter. Even though the latter didn't think so, she, as a parent, thought so. Since rejecting it might have an opposite effect, she decided to go with the flow. Then your dad and I will handle the administration. Tasha nodded with a smile. She already finished explaining, so it was her turn to ask. Mom, can you tell me what happened to Kai? He met assassins that wanted to kill him. However, his teacher arrived and helped him. I also informed him that, because of severe blood loss, his teacher, who seemed to have the same blood type as him, decided to do the transfusion. She's staying in the same room with Kai since she said there might be a chance for the assassins to target him again. She's such a responsible teacher, even though she's only a few years older than him. Wait, does Kai love mature women? I should ask him later, and maybe we can have her as a part of our family, she said with a slight frown on her face, weighing the matter. In her mind. Mom, Tasha shouted. Haha, sorry. Then, what happened to him after you and Dad arrived? Oh, that, well, 1 hour earlier. Kai opened his eyes and saw an unfamiliar ceiling. He looked left and right while remembering the previous fight. Looking further to the side, he found Shirotsuka Sanae lying on a bed beside him. She looked like a patient in this hospital too. Teacher. Oh. How is your body? Sanae asked. Kai checked his body and tried to move it. Although he felt a bit weak, there should be no problem with his body. He slowly rose into a sitting position and replied, I'm all right. Her eyes twitched when she heard that. Oi, you're a monster, aren't you? Kai narrowed his eyes. The doctor even said it's a miracle that you're alive. You should have been unconscious for a few more days because of that big wound. But look at you now. You've woken up and seem to be fine, Shirotsuka, Sanae said. Well, I'm proud of my power. Kai wanted to pose like he was proud, but when he tried to move his hand, he felt something restricting it. He looked to the side and found Ayaka sleeping while holding his hand. He was startled to see her here. She rushed here when she heard you were injured and admitted to this hospital. Well, since she was your partner in practical class, she was one of the people I needed to inform. She was panicking and even informed her family about this, trying to help you. Anyway, she panicked too much and couldn't do anything. It seemed she was frustrated by the fact that she didn't know anything about this. Maybe she thought that you didn't trust her or something along the line, Sanai explained. Kai shook his head helplessly. It's not that I don't trust her. We're only friends, so I think I shouldn't bother her with this. But she clearly treats you as someone who's more than just a friend, you know. Or are you that dense? Or maybe you don't even realize your own sister's actions. No, I know that. However, unlike my sister, what she needs is a hero, a man that can protect her and teach her various things. And because we've experienced lots of things, it became a bit complicated. However, one thing that won't change someone will be able to replace my figure in her heart easily. I don't care about having multiple wives and such, but I surely want to build my relationship with someone, not falling in love because of a certain thing. That's why I keep a certain distance from her. Well, this might sound a bit funny from a person that doesn't understand what love is, but that's my view on this, Kai explained while stroking Ayaka's head with a smile. Well, I'm not in a position to butt in your love life. Still, I think you should talk to her about it. The sooner, the better, Sanai advised. Yes, I know. After this matter with the Katsuragi family ends and my parents are safe, I'll settle it with her. Anyway, your parents came here a few minutes ago. They said they wanted to go back home first to grab a few things, and they'll come back here soon. I see. My parents must be furious. Indeed, I even felt chills when your mother looked at me even though there was no killing intent. Haha. My mother is the absolute head in my house, so, yeah, he said before looking at Sanai with a serious expression. I also need to give you your payment. I'll send her contact details later. I'm really thankful for your help in this matter. Shirotsuka Sanai looked at him with a complicated expression. You don't need to give it to me. My agreement with you is to investigate the Katsuragi family in exchange for my best friend's details, so I'll help you a bit longer. Are you sure? Kai was surprised by this. Yeah. Besides, I must have become one of the people on their list since the sniper got away. Sanai shrugged. I'm sorry about that. Kai scratched his cheek, feeling a bit guilty. I almost thought you'd fallen for me or something. How do you want me to put you back to death's door? To think you dare to tease your teacher? Sanai jokingly glared at him before chuckling. Kai also chuckled.